it, then it's going to be like pouring and pushing. And
water does contract and expand.
Yeah,
yes, it does, based on temperature. It does the
right. So there's
100%.
wind, there's temperature, there has to be a piezo or there's salt in there. There's a lot of shit going on with the ocean.
Lots,
You know what I mean?
lots of shit.
Yep.
They say you don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here. And no, I don't wanna be alone.
What is up, people? So, this is what it's all about. I was asked, once again, how do I know we live on a globe? And it was a simple answer that I was ready for. You ready? Because a lunar eclipse? Yeah, it's impossible on a flat Earth. How? Let me explain. Well, for starters, during a lunar eclipse, half the world sees the sun. Half the world sees only the moon. Not possible on a flat Earth. Why? Because the sun would then have to be out of view, or the sun's rays be strong enough to then shine across the whole world and somehow hit a mysterious object that doesn't exist. I know. You will then say, what about the selenelion eclipses? Well, that's a pretty simple situation as well, explained by the Globe. And again, before I explain that, let me ask this simple question. If 90% of the eclipses, the lunar eclipses that we see, work in the way I described in the beginning, why can't that be the topic of discussion? But it's okay. We'll talk about the other ones, even though they represent 10% of the lunar eclipses that have happened. But even then, it's still explained. Now, we've already established with Flat Earth that refraction is a thing. It cannot deny it. It cannot say it does not work the way it does. Well, thanks to atmospheric refraction, which is explained and observed. Now, you can't say it's not observed. Every sunset we see over the ocean, every sunrise we see over the ocean is affected by some type of refraction, which is why we see it do those, look larger at some point, or you see it like kind of band out a little bit differently at the along the horizon. Yeah, that's called refraction, and we have established that. Well, thanks to atmospheric refraction, what you see is the appearance of the sun and the moon below the horizon even still. Go ahead and show this real quick. I had it somewhere in here. That was from yesterday. Oh, I got it. Here we go. Trying to get it to go back over there. Apparently, when you transition between one and another one, they don't like that very much. Hang on 1 second. There we go. It's working. There you go. Sorry about that. All right. So, like I was saying in this illustration, well, I like to also shout out this. This is that F. What is it? On the bottom of this picture, I'll look at it in a second. But that's that website we've been using lately. I actually really like it. I've read through a lot of them. It says, "This is the claim: the sun and the moon have been observed and appear in the sky at the same time during a total lunar eclipse. This could never happen on a Earth if the Earth was round." Again, we've established that refraction is a thing. We understand, or some of us understand how refraction works and what we would see during these situations. And again, there's factors that happen into this that matter more than anything. Again, to be able to have this situation, we have to understand what is at play. During a lunar eclipse, the Earth itself gets in between the sun and the moon, and with that wonderful lineup, creates a shadow on the moon. Or, as you know, as you see in the image, a lot of times you will see this. These are partials and whatnot. But again, the same way you understand refraction now is the same way you should understand refraction in the situation of a lunar eclipse and this situation. You can't say it happens any other way because it only happens in one situation when it is below the horizon due to refraction. And the reason this happens only during sunrise, sunset is exactly why I made it very clear that you understood this. And this is why I say when it appears to hit the sunset, the sunrise, or the horizon, I apologize, is due to refraction. That's why we get those effects, those bands. So yeah. Let me see. So Dave, let me get in this chat real quick, guys. And I didn't have much of a rant, so I wanted to get that out. But I'm just gonna say what's up to everyone. Let's say what's up, Sean? What's up, Charlie? How you doing? What's up, MG? What's up, Demonic? What's up, Robert? I saw your message. Yeah, you're definitely welcome on the panel. Hey, Amy, how you doing? Let me see. What's up, Soul Survivor? What's up, Unpaid? I know, and I think you guys should realize if I'm late, at least I'm not late like last night or the night before. It was an hour. What's up, Sean? Let's see here. What's up, Jose? What's up, Logical Trilogy? Aaron's in the house. What's up, Dave? So Dave was asking, would refraction, or what's up, Terry? Would refraction work on a flat plane? I guess, yeah. Why wouldn't it? But you wouldn't have the same refractive optics and the same refraction observations that we have. Refraction would work differently over a plane, but it would still be refraction. Yeah, that's everybody. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. What you guys see on it? So basically, this is literally not up for debate. It's not, how could it be up for debate? That's what I I don't get. Just don't get it. Go ahead and share the link to everybody. We'll get this panel open, see what you guys think. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think a flat earther is gonna come on here telling me how it works differently and how it's wrong. I just does not. I don't think it's gonna happen. Which is also why you guys are looking in my title. Yeah, I will slowly but surely move away from this because I thought about it the other night and I realized, hey, instead of saying flat Earth, you can just say the topic at hand. We'll do it that way because regardless, some people don't understand why can you see the sun and the moon. So we'll see what happens. And then you guys also have to bear with me because I did get a new phone and I'm scrambling to set that up. Here. And if you're wondering, no, it's nothing good. Oh yeah, hang on 1 second. A demonic, don't talk at all because I have to get my headphones on because I was using my speakers. Do not talk or you'll blow everyone's ears out. Which is why I'm not letting Aaron in until I set my headphone up.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, hang on 1 second because I gotta put the headphones to here and do this before Aaron talks. All right, test. Can you guys hear me? All right, perfect. We're good. I had to do that before Aaron got in here. What's up, Aaron? How you doing, buddy? Yeah. Do me a favor. Don't eat on the mic. I hate that. I hate that with a passion. It's so gross. Okay. So Dave in the chat says, so eclipses on a globe is caused by refraction when both in the sky at the same time, in your opinion. No, Dave, they are both in the sky due to refraction only when they are low enough, or they're both in line at I think it was 2 degrees of away from or below the horizon is the only time it could happen. But yeah. But because it's a globe and the way refraction works on a globe, with it being curvature, yeah, that is 100% not my opinion. Why it happens and now how I understand it to happen. Yes. Go ahead. Yeah, I could show you lots of. Well, I'd rather show you images, but yeah, I can definitely do that though. There's no such thing as a Travis band. Hang on. Going to something. Nope, that was not it. Oh, yeah, it was. La la la. Where am I? Where is it? Oh, refraction. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen. Sorry about that. I have a child, so I had to do something. Here we go. Dave said, "Okay, so your scientific fact, not your opinion." Yeah, it is a. Yeah, it's wait. It's a scientific. It's a scientific fact. Yeah, it has facts behind it. It's evidence. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. But I think it'd be better if we understood what refraction is, because you asked me to pull up an YouTube of Snell's law. The issue is why call it Snell's law when you can just say infraction or refraction period? That's my question. Yeah, like you're talking about like inferior mirages and other optics like that, right? Phenomena. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's exactly what we should do. So I found it says mirages are produced by atmospheric refraction and are mainly seen in settings where the large variations in the air temperature, such as deserts or cold bodies of water. The refraction, which occurs near the Earth's surface, is mainly due to the temperature gradients, where the light rays will be bent towards the cooler side of a given interface. So, yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. We understand what refraction is. Like I was saying, Snell's law definitely helps explain all of this stuff. But again, we're not seeing anything that's not explained on a Earth. See right here, this image on the bottom left. That's a superior mirage. That's what we call it, looming. I'm sorry, but this is a situation of atmospheric refraction. You need to see the video. I can play that real quick. Oh, there's a lot of things that I'm pretty sure there's a lot of things you want to see, but we're kind of limited. But yet we still have the evidence. There you go. No, I don't have to. No, wait. I don't have to. I don't have to change the variable, the observation points. All I got to do is show you this. That's it. Like you're changing. No. You're changing the variables on the spot, and I'm not interested in it. So you can either watch for the video that you were. You can watch the video that you requested, or we can go on and talk about something else. But there it is, the video. There you go. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you asked to see atmospheric refraction, and I just did. So there's nothing else you're going to get from it.
Demonstrated an interval between processes increasing.
Stop talking. Stop
That's it.
For a second. Aaron, shut up. No one can hear you.
Wait, so
magic.
were you explaining
Aaron,
like how the
come on.
clocks get faster when
And
you go really
my
fast?
rebuttals
Because
of
I never
how
really got
fast
that
and
works.
possible on a flat Earth.
Here's how it works. The mechanical
He said he
processes
wanted to have
are
a
subject to
rebuttal of that.
different
He then said
forces,
he wanted to see
so
atmospheric
they
refraction
occur at a
on
greater
YouTube.
interval
So
or a
you
faster
guys saw-
interval.
or actually you guys
There's
didn't see because I
absolutely
wasn't paying
no
attention.
proof
I was
whatsoever
going to that
that time itself has changed. So you have one clock that's faster than another. You don't immediately think that time has changed. You know, for example, we just put a house together, and the brand new Samsung microwave and frickin' stove, right on top of each other, one above the other,
Yeah.
right?
No, they weren't.
We set the timer, and we came back hours later, and they were off. We didn't think, oh my goodness, the microwave is further from the center of the Earth, and therefore is subject to a different amount of space-time, where time itself is dilated. No, we thought that the mechanical functions were in error.
So you used like a not super accurate clock that doesn't hold its time for very long.
It doesn't
that's why it lost
matter. The principle is the same.
No, I just.
Well, I think they use super accurate timing
Do you
for
agree?
So,
I gave you.
what's your point?
Hey, Aaron, did I give
Your
you?
point would only
exactly what you had
would
said?
only validate my
Verbatim,
point,
not
which is they
verbatim,
would
but-
show
Okay, what
a
did you ask then?
difference in how
then
many
repeat.
calculations, accurate or not, have been taken. For
Okay.
example, let's say 1,000
On
vibrations
YouTube.
at ground level
Okay, there you go.
and 9,999 at elevation. So you look at the two vibrations and you say, oh man, the one that's further up has one less vibration. So it actually was at a different time. No, it just demarked the time at different intervals.
I just did.
Time itself didn't
did.
change. The only thing that changed was
I
the
just did.
mechanical action of the vibration. That's the only
Do you know what
thing that's
Snell's law
self-evident.
is?
It's the only thing that's verifiable. It's the only thing that's
What's up,
proven.
Terry?
And
To assume
what
that you're
force
actually
changed that?
dilating,
Well,
it's irrelevant.
Well, it is kind of relevant.
No, it isn't.
Like, if you did it many times, would you get the exact same change? Because that would kind of be evidence.
It doesn't matter how many times you do it. What I'm telling you is that the assumption that you're actually dilating time is not carried by those premises of just demonstrating a difference in a mechanical action.
Well, do you have another explanation for the mechanical action?
I don't need another explanation.
Can you shut up for like 2 seconds, Aaron? I'm trying to fucking pinpoint something, dude.
What I'm telling you is that the only thing you'll be able to do for me is to show me a device or a metric that has either increased or decreased its interval mechanically.
Before you came in, did you mute?
You will not be able to demonstrate to me that time itself has changed.
Okay, that's they should be good now. Everybody in the chat, let me know if everything's okay.
Now, if you wish to rebut that with a different type of principle in which you think you can actually demonstrate that time itself is the thing that's changing and not the mechanical.
Tell me if it's just all of a sudden turned off in the chat. Because if it is, I know exactly what it was. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, it was a Discord voice chat in the background. My apologies. It was low though, so yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I doubt it, but yeah. Okay, I apologize. We're back on roll. Okay, so now we can continue back where we were at. We were talking about refraction. You keep saying Snell's law, but again, I'll say this again. You're just talking about the same thing. So I'm not really sure why you keep referring to it as. What up, Travis? How you doing, sir? Cool. Is everything good on the audio now? Yeah, I had a Discord voice chat going in the background on accident. Oh yeah, well I usually mess up and do that. That's where I don't. That's when I just don't unmute the desktop audio. But I've unmuted that, so Aaron was talking, so no one would have heard anything else. But then when I realized, I kind of looked over in my voice potato that I have a Discord, and I had turned it down earlier, so that's what it was like. You guys probably were hearing a whisper of something that wasn't even talking in unison. Oh, yeah, Aaron, yeah, Aaron. That's not going to protect you, my friend. Well, is your carbon footprint strong enough? Talk, Aaron. Wow, why can't no one can hear? Make any?
Starting to fly around, panic.
No. That's where I'm gonna head. I'm gonna head straight to the truck that's chained to a trailer, or hitched to a trailer that's chained to a machine. And I'm gonna sit in that and watch my shed blow away.
I think you realize that none of that anchors you down.
No, but at least I can move. I might be able to move. I'll have it running. Just
Yeah, cars don't work when they're in the air.
But rockets do.
What do you guys think is
not a rocket.
Shed, or 7,000-pound truck, hitched to a 4,000-pound trailer with a 10,000-pound machine on it? Which one's better? A fucking shed?
How about you get the get the
or-
excavator and dig a really big hole in a tunnel? You'll be right.
I was thinking about that, Demonic. You're right. That's what I should do. Build a fucking hole. Dig a hole.
Good idea, Demonic. Why didn't I think of that?
I gave you props. You're right.
Tornado shelter.
Anyways, about refraction.
Yeah, about refraction, which is not the way we see things, by the way.
How do we see things?
So, if you look up refraction, the typical picture they give you is the bent pencil in the glass of water, right? Right. So that's the demonstration that I've seen on a consistent basis of refraction. Right. We see the pencil refracted. Right.
Yeah, same as the ruler in a fish tank.
A bit orthogonal, right, Travis? A bit orthogonal view, right there.
Yeah. It's a side-on view, right? And so then we see a pencil split once it hits the medium of water, right?
That's optics.
Right. That's optics. So show me in any of the footage that I can provide for you where you see that.
Does any of your stuff go into the water?
Right. Fucking A, man. Come on, wake up.
What did you see, Travis, the picture that Sean showed with the sailboat floating?
Yeah.
Did you see that? I mean, I know
well, did he show that? Did he show that tonight? Because I just came on right now. So, if not, I've seen him show something like that before. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so that would be akin to me in the glass of water with the pencil, being in the water, looking up at the pencil, and not being able to differentiate the medium about knowing the pencil's straight, right? I know the pencil's straight, but I'm looking up at it through the water, and then I would see a refraction if I was in the water, is what Sean is showing you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, but I wanted to get Sean back.
Yeah. So again, going back to my point, show me where we see refraction like that anywhere in our world.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just on the YouTube for you guys. I'm just gonna share on the screen so you guys can see it. So much easier and better than having to watch that. Bigger. There we go. Okay, you see it?
I just see like these different panes, and I'm on my
perfect.
phone, so.
Okay, I'm gonna make it bigger. Okay, so have you seen sunsets so beautiful like this?
Okay.
That's an instance of refraction. I'm trying to only look for
okay,
real pictures.
show me where there's a divided object that is refracting like a pencil in water.
Excuse me? Do you understand that it's the light that you see, not the actual object that's at question? You understand that, right?
Yeah, all you're doing is showing me an observation that I see on a flat Earth. So there's
but Travis, you're trying to make an equivalence of one thing going from one medium to another. We're talking about in a single medium.
Right then, right. I don't have a problem. Right, but when I Google refraction, and the very first demonstration that they show me is a pencil in water. Right.
Oh, then you should Google atmospheric refraction then, because I didn't get that.
Oh no, I don't need a problem. I don't need any help understanding that. Yeah.
Okay,
sure,
so you
I
understand
that,
what? Wait. So you understand atmospheric refraction?
I understand that objects that we look at over distance are distorted because of the ether band. Yeah.
Distorted?
Yeah, distorted. Right.
So you're talking. So what type of optic are you talking about?
Well, if you're standing in front of me and I'm having a conversation with you, I unless there's a problem with my eyesight, Sean, I can see you clearly.
That's not resolution. That's resolution. We're not talking about resolution.
Hold on.
Okay.
But the farther you get away from me, the more distorted you will become because of the medium.
Again, that's resolution, not refraction.
And
no, you can't. I would say this: you can't differentiate between resolution and refraction in terms of. I'm not okay. Hold on. I'm not equivocating the two. Right. I'm not equivocating the two. What I'm saying is that you can't tell me that there is no refraction in irresolution. Right.
Wait. There's not. I can say that there is not refraction involved in resolution. That's
false.
No,
absolutely false.
Explain in the show.
Sean, what is fog then? Let's say.
Fog is an atmosphere. It's an effect of atmosphere.
Yeah. So when headlights are coming at you in the fog, you don't see the headlights. You may see some light. It's being refracted in all different weird directions.
That's actually being diffused.
Yeah, fog is actually an obstruction.
And diffracted. Diffusion and diffraction are very similar. Don't quote me on that, but look it up.
Okay, let's get.
No. Diffraction changes the angle of light.
Okay, that was my point. Thank you, Demonic. Let's go back, Travis, to the very, very simple experiment of how light diffraction works from one medium into another and then exiting back to another medium. But Sean won't show it because it kind of destroys his ball theory because every single experiment, single experiment shows a flat surface.
Well, show what he wants you to show him.
Yeah, show us.
No, you show.
Oh, I've been showing this whole time.
No. Okay, Aaron is saying. Aaron just said. Yeah. He gave an example and he said, but Sean won't show it. So. Will you show what Aaron is describing?
I have been.
Sean's staying on topic.
Yeah, definitely. I'm saying that he wanted to see atmospheric refraction. So everything I'm making sure I show has everything to do with atmospheric refraction. It's even what I Googled. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want to see atmospheric refraction because your title is Flat Earth versus Globe Earth refraction. Basically.
Yeah, and it says selenium eclipse, right?
Okay, but hold on. Before we get to
that's due to atmospheric refraction. Yep. See, I'm on topic.
Before we get to the Earth scale, why don't we figure out what light does on a local proximity?
So just so you understand,
through
if I'm standing in front of you, Resolution plays a factor. Refraction plays no factor at all. At all. If you go
shine a light through a fish tank.
Oh really?
Shine a light through a fish tank.
If I'm standing 20 feet away from you, outside, refraction plays a part.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, because because that's what light does at any distance.
No.
It always is refracted.
Okay, show me in between 20 feet where the light changes its angle of incidence.
Travis, hold on. You might need to clarify for Sean. The medium
what refraction
that the light is.
Uh-huh.
The medium that the light might be passing through. That includes temperature, pressure, density.
And 20 feet doesn't change anything.
Humidity, vapor, all that stuff, which can change and can happen within 2 feet, right?
You're making a lot of things happen.
I jump in the water, it's 50. What? So there's a huge temperature change there. There's evaporation going on.
Like you're explaining what refraction is and how it's explained in some
No, I'm explaining the medium.
You're kind of trying to dissect what I'm saying, and you can't.
I'm not dissecting. I'm just saying.
You really are. It's pretty bad too.
I'm asking Travis before he responds to you.
No, you're talking to me, not Travis.
Point. I clearly addressed Travis.
I didn't hear that.
But think about this, Sean. Water evaporates. Water evaporates.
Okay. Okay.
Does it evaporate?
Yeah,
okay, so it becomes a
kind of
vapor.
going off topic, but
is that a different medium? Is that a different medium that
make sure you
the
don't go
sunlight
off topic,
you're talking about has to go through, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stay on topic. Yeah.
And if that was the only issue, then distance would definitely be in effect.
Yep.
What about temperature?
Temperature? Oh yeah. I mean, you've already said that 7 times. I don't know why you're asking it again, but yeah.
What about currents? What about water temperature and currents?
Atmospheric refraction. Not gonna forget, but okay, continue.
There are so many variables. The atmospheric refraction.
Funny how we're talking about one incident.
Your account of atmospheric refraction cannot be accounted to. Yep, I'm standing here and I see this weird.
Makes no sense. I have no idea. You're ranting for no reason now.
Oh, gee whiz.
I don't even know what you're talking about anymore. You're so off topic. Stay here. Stay with us.
Okay.
Luke. You hear?
So I just sent you a picture, Sean, in Skype. If you want to just pull it up and we can talk about it.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, Sean. He said if you want to pull it up.
Well, I gotta check it first. I wouldn't just print a picture of a bag of dicks,
And I wouldn't post that.
I know, Aaron. I was just making a point.
I'm not Aaron, silly man.
Well, now, huh? I apologize, Travis. You know what it is? It's because I just got done having to fucking discipline him, and it's in my brain. He's like a 2-year-old child. When you have kids, when you call them the wrong name, you don't do that shit on purpose.
All the time. All the time.
So your brain's thinking about that kid that just pissed you off.
Yeah, Travis. I don't think Sean meant to insult you.
Yeah, not at all, my friend.
Oh,
I
no.
Like Travis.
Not
I don't like Aaron. I was kind of trying my patience.
I like Aaron, but when he gets on his rants, he just becomes incoherent.
I've never not understood Aaron.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Smith.
Sean.
Full of energy drinks and ready for a marathon.
What am I? Hold on a second. What am I, Newman? There, Travis?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Hey, I'm probably going to drop off. I'm going into the pit of despair right now in Buffering County, Pennsylvania. So I'll come back if I drop off.
Yeah, hey, and then I got your picture. I'll definitely show it. And you got some answers to it. You got some. What the? Okay, yeah. I'll wait. I'll wait.
You're gonna have to. It'll be maybe 3 minutes.
Oh, that's fine.
Sean, I've been trying to find a video that can explain something that what we've just been talking about. Is it okay to just share a little video?
Absolutely.
I'm going to go here. Dawn is presenting.
Yeah, I'm got to get to my screen. Hang on.
Sean's always presenting.
I'll try entire screen. I'll see if I can get that. bring up this. I've been trying to find a certain video that'll. This only goes for 1:38, so it'll be all right to play it.
Okay.
It's not quite the video I'm looking for, but I'm trying to find one with a better representation of optics to do with refraction. It does explain a lot how the atmosphere can change an image due to the conditions.
Hey, that's white man magic. What are you doing?
It even gets better. I was hoping to find a fish tank, so we could look through a fish tank of water and have an image on the other side as well.
Yeah, fish tanks will definitely mess with your head if you look at it from the different sides and stuff. Like, I'm not sure exactly where that fish is.
I want to go that. No, I don't want to go that way. I want to go the other way.
Yeah, I was trying to find the fish tank one, but I can't find it. Because it shows you what we see at the horizon, how things get refracted and miraged and mirroring just from the medium that we're looking through.
And this is just the extreme.
Mm.
Right,
there
I'm
you
back.
go. I can't.
Yep.
You want me to replay the video?
Who are you talking to?
Everybody.
Wait, what?
I do. I want to see this magic again.
Yeah, we'll see it again.
How do you pour the arrow into the glass?
No, I can't figure that one out.
Oh, it's magic markers.
All right, so I also sent you a follow-up picture there, Sean G.
All right.
Are you watching the video?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everyone should be.
It explains a lot.
It explains why people go the wrong way down one-way streets. Refraction causes them to go the wrong way.
What are they looking through their beer glass?
Refraction.
This is extreme refraction.
Damn it, Terry, play it again.
Ah.
Play it again. Again!
I want to find another video.
Again.
To do with it.
Again.
Oh, jeez.
Again.
Go and eat your pizza. Go and eat your pizza.
If you don't, everyone's going to be mad at you. I already told them you would.
Super slow motion.
Not only does it change direction, but it also changes size.
Almost like there's some form of refraction.
Oh my word! What the hell? You guys aren't proving anything.
Well, if you can't see it, I can't explain it to you.
I can see it. I don't need you to explain it to me. I'm saying you're not proving anything.
Yeah, he is. He's proving that you can do magic with water.
You can do magic.
God damn it, Travis.
You can have anything that you desire.
That is so issue-ish. Okay, we're going to look at your pictures. We're looking at your pictures. Damn. Okay, so... Man, and
right,
Travis,
so
never again.
Both these...
Hang on.
I can't promise that, Sean. When it comes on me, I just gotta sing.
Could you repeat that, Travis?
Oh no, we got that.
Yeah,
don't worry.
when
don't
you come
worry.
on me, I just have to sing.
I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah, I'm good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we're good. Back to what we're doing.
Yeah. make those kind of stupid locker room comments again. Anyway, so
but
the
you
two,
said it.
The two image. No, I said something clean, and you turned it into something dirty. It was you, not me. Anyway.
Yeah, but it came out your mouth.
Okay, we're looking at them. The first image. Okay, so we're looking at the first image, the one that is clearly not visible, or the resolution is just horrific. However you want.
What
to
image?
It. Hang on, I'm sharing.
We can't
it right
see
now.
anything.
I know you can't.
Okay.
It's part of my plan.
Terry.
Are you gonna argue it?
Sean has to. Yeah, Sean has to check the photos before showing the photo. What?
What the hell? Is that a blink test? What the hell's going on? I have epilepsy. Please stop.
That was weird.
I didn't have epilepsy, but I might now.
It's not my fault. I don't know why it does that. If you don't click on the screen that you're sharing, it'll start freaking out.
Okay, so what we are seeing here is the same day, but about 40 minutes later than the image that I sent to Sean second, okay? This image that you see right here is the Anacapa Island with the lighthouse. And if you look close enough between the two dark images, you can see the vertical representation of the lighthouse. Do you see it?
No.
Barely.
I know it's barely, but I just want you to just let your eyes see that there is a vertical image between the lower dark image and the upper dark image. Right?
I thought it was a sponge on my screen.
Yeah, ink blot testing.
Yeah, I wipe my screen to see if it's clean.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is about 6:30 or 6:40 in the morning, November 4th, I believe, November 4th. And the image that Sean has next is this same image a half an hour earlier, where you can clearly see the lighthouse.
So in the first image, you were showing that you could purposely not focus, or
no. That's what the ether band did to the image that you're looking at right now.
What in the ether band did it do?
Okay, so I have not changed my location. I have not changed my height of my camera. I have not moved. The only thing that has changed is time and the ether band.
What is the ether band?
I've already explained this to you. I'm not going to.
No, but I'm
okay. What part of the ether band is causing the image?
Yeah, you said it was
every part of it. Every part of it.
What is time? Detail. I want to know what made this. What made this happen?
I'm not dancing for you. I'm not your monkey. I'm not dancing for you.
Wait, stop.
Sean.
You can't tell me. Shut up, Aaron. Shut up, Aaron. You
What
can't
is
tell
time?
me. You can't tell me
What is
what
time?
atmospheric optic this is what you're saying. Right?
It's refraction.
What type of refraction?
It's refraction. Oh my God.
What type?
Hold on, Travis. Travis, which can you go back to the first one there, Sean? Okay, Travis. On this one, I can see that there is a vertical line on it, but there's a slight issue with that picture. That's not going to be the same angle as the other one.
Yes, it
is. This one is centered.
Sean.
The other one is not.
Sean, I haven't moved.
If you haven't moved, then somehow that picture has been centered on that lighthouse, as opposed to the other one, which is not.
Yeah, I zoomed in. Sure, right. I zoomed in.
So you zoomed in, which changed the resolution of the camera.
I see which one he's saying.
That's
this one.
got nothing to do with the fact.
But I don't think it's one you see.
Okay, so
no.
What you have to notice is, hold on. What you have to notice is that below the lighthouse in the image with the boat.
Oh, I don't think you're seeing the lighthouse in this image right here. You're not seeing it.
I don't think so either.
You're not. There's nowhere in hell you're
I don't
seeing
give
the
a shit
lighthouse.
what you think.
Wait, come on. You're telling me
There's
this?
no
I don't
detail.
give a shit.
You're telling me the speck of this lighthouse is in this image?
I can show you the video tomorrow. You want to come on my show tomorrow morning?
I want to see the video now.
I can't. I'm driving.
Actually, what I want to see is I want to see that same picture, not zoomed in all the way.
Yeah.
Well,
because the resolution is so bad. It's so bad you can't even tell what that is.
Yeah, that's almost digital resolution.
Okay, listen to me, please. Listen to me, please. The only reason I know what that is because I watched the ether band change the island
What
in front of my
optic in the
eyes.
ether band? You're talking too broad. I need to know the detail. I need to know what effect.
If you want to pay me for my time, Sean.
No. Okay,
then
fine.
If you want to contract with
pay me for
my
your
time.
time. Is that what you want to say?
I'm not asking you to do anything.
Yeah, you are. I'm giving you exposure right now. Do you want to start paying for that time?
Do you want to drop a contract?
Yeah, I'll do one immediately, but then you're gonna have to start paying for it.
Well, then I'm not going to agree to it because I don't want to pay you for it. What I'm saying is I'm not making any demands of you. I'm having a conversation. You're making a demand of me, Sean.
Yeah, I am.
Which is going to require
because
my time.
You're making a claim.
Okay, hold on, please. Everyone, listen. Right, hold on, please. Everyone here, I'm simply describing my observations.
Are you?
You're asking me to go into a more scientifically elaborate.
No, I'm asking you to go into a more detailed explanation.
All I'm going to be able to do is just describe what I'm seeing, Sean.
Describe what you are seeing, because this is not the lighthouse.
Okay, Sean, stop saying that. Okay.
There is nothing to make a comparable measurement to.
Okay. If you want to show up on my stream tomorrow, I can show you the different videos I have of this location and this island. It's the Anacapa Island with the lighthouse. Okay? I know that you find it hard to believe. I know that it's incredulous.
I just don't. I don't.
It would be to me as well if I didn't see it myself. I understand. I don't fault you for that.
I think.
Okay, listen to me.
Okay,
I understand, and I don't fault you for that. But do not tell me that what I'm telling you is not true.
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, that's the lighthouse.
No.
Excuse me?
No. It's not the lighthouse.
So are you calling me a liar?
You know what? Hold on. Actually, no. I'm looking at it. You know what? You know what? It could be the edge of a lighthouse. It could be anything. The problem is the resolution is so bad. You can't tell anything in that picture.
Sean Smith. I am telling you what that is.
And I'm telling you that the resolution is so bad, that the only thing you can do.
Yes, that is.
Yes, that is. As soon as you zoomed in, Travis, I'm trying to help you with this.
No, you're
Listen,
not.
as soon as you zoom in, with that P9000, it goes all the way to its limit. Once you limit in optics.
That's the image that
Once you limit in optics out, you're going to pick up all sorts of distortion.
Oh my God. That image that you're looking at is not a result of my zooming in. That's the image.
No.
That's how
you don't understand.
Bad the atmosphere is distorting the image.
No, you don't
so that's not zoomed in at all, is what you're telling me.
That's what you see with your naked eye. That's what you see with your naked eye?
Yeah. That's correct.
You need glasses.
That's correct.
You need to go to Specsavers.
You need glasses, my friend. That's resolution.
I just sent you another picture, Sean. I just sent you another picture, Sean, of the same lighthouse, same location.
Those images are zoomed in. They're not at normal.
Okay, you guys are.
Yeah, that's normal resolution.
You think you know what you're talking about.
This is resolution again.
You think you know what you're talking about.
This is resolution. Why are you putting filters on them?
I don't have a filter on this.
No, you.
But then why is the color changing?
You have filters. I can tell right now.
Oh my!
Looking at
Oh my!
this.
No, that's a
God.
different. That picture.
Shut
That picture's
up,
off of
Sean.
an iPhone, isn't it?
I have not put a filter on my camera. I have not.
Okay.
There's not a filter on the camera, Sean.
Okay. Okay.
It's absolutely
Travis,
amazing that you can make declarations
Travis,
about
that
these things when I'm the one
that last one, is that off of an iPhone?
No, they're both off the P900.
I didn't make a
same
declaration.
location.
Then why are you taking such crappy pictures?
The third one I'm talking about.
Fuck you.
Why is it cut?
Don't be angry, dude.
Okay.
Those are crappy pictures, though.
Okay, Sean.
Yes.
Sean.
What?
That is what the ether band is doing to the island. That's what
Stop
it's
with that
showing.
ether band shit.
Okay, go back to the image with the boat, Sean.
Okay.
Okay.
And the reason the lighthouse is out of resolution is because if the boat, which is has more resolution than the lighthouse, even though it's not much.
Even the boat's a bit blurry.
Exactly.
The boat's in more focus than the island is.
Ether. Okay.
No, it's atmosphere.
Not where the boat is. Not where the boat is.
Atmosphere. Travis, you can continue to say the ether band all you would like, but I'm not. But I'm not going to when I talk. And when I ask
you don't have to.
When I ask for detail, it's not helping yourself that you're not willing to give us an explanation of what you're talking about. So just so you understand, I just want to make sure you understood why no one was referring to anything as your band.
I don't give a shit if you want to use the term or not.
Okay. Now, I'm going to say the same thing I did to Chris Berry. Luckily, Chris Berry had enough integrity to do it his damn self. Go take these pictures again, but correctly.
Fuck you.
Nah, I'm not into that. We can cuddle, though.
Okay, Sean.
Easy, Travis, easy.
Okay, listen. No, I'm not going to have my integrity maligned, okay?
I didn't
No. This is not integrity. This is knowing how to take photos.
I didn't say you did it on purpose. I'm saying go back and do it again, but try.
I have numerous images. I have numerous images of this lighthouse.
Okay.
Have you got any better ones?
It has nothing to do.
Travis, integrity can only be diminished by those withstanding. Okay, these guys have been standing. Don't worry about it.
What the hell, Travis?
The reason why the image is, in your opinion, a poor image has nothing to do with my photographic capability. It has everything to do with how the image is presented to me or anyone else with the camera on this given day.
How far away is that island from where you're taking a picture?
If you hold on, Sean Smith, if you were to have a DSLR camera with the best zoom that you wanted to, this is the image you would have. Same image.
I can guarantee you it isn't.
How far away?
First off, you'd be able to bring into resolution that boat in the foreground.
No, you wouldn't. No.
Oh yes, you would.
No,
the problem is that you're using a limited optics, and you're also catching atmosphere. There's different types of atmosphere, and I've already explained to you about localized atmosphere.
Okay, listen.
Wait, Travis. How far away is that lighthouse, Travis?
I'll answer your question in just a minute, Sean G.
Wait, no. Just give me a real quick number.
It's 19 miles.
You're telling me 19 miles away in the P900 can't take a better picture? Really?
Sean Smith. Okay. So what I hear you describing is that, let's say, for instance, you and I are, I'm just going to make up a location. We're on we're at the Grand Canyon. Okay. And we're shooting across the Grand Canyon, and we have pristine conditions. It's a beautiful, crisp, clear day. Okay, and you're talking about focusing in on, let's say, a cougar. Let's say we see a cougar on the mountainside, and we're both going to take an image of that cougar, and it's we both
Why would a
take a
cougar
picture,
be
and it's
on a
both,
mountainside?
it's a.
Why don't you just say like a bar or something?
Okay, a donkey.
Oh, you're
How
talking
about
about
a
an
donkey?
animal.
Because
My bad.
wow.
My bad.
You're talking about focusing in on an object that is clear, okay? The problem is, Sean Smith, that the image that you're looking at is distorted already by the ether band. It's you can't.
What is the
you
ether
can't
band?
you cannot
What is the ether band?
focus in on
What is the
an
ether band?
image that's already blurred.
What is the ether band?
Question. Is the ether band distorting the boat and the island?
Yes.
Why is it the
So
same?
it works
Why is
at
it
two
Yes.
different distances.
Yes, that's correct.
How?
That
How
would
do you
require.
How do you know it's the ether band?
It's
what I'm
temperature,
looking through.
pressure, vapor,
Which are
density,
which are
The ether band.
distance,
which
heat,
are yeah. I
all
would love
that.
all those numbers.
The ether
Okay.
band. The
Thank you,
ether
Tra-
band.
hey, thank you, Aaron. Travis, your spokesman said you had all these details.
No, but you cannot define or pinpoint one of them, Sean. And
Yeah, I
neither
can. I
Travis.
can show you how.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Show
Travis, what's the ether band? Please explain it one more time.
The ether band is the air through which you look.
The atmospheric optics.
Okay, whatever.
Okay. Yeah, but that's your version. That's how you explain it. Ether band, right? That's the atmospheric optics is the way I describe it. Right?
That's fine.
Okay.
Potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
Can you define that, Sean? Can you define atmospheric optics? Like
Yes, absolutely.
down to
Absolutely, I
specific
can.
content
Yeah.
of it?
Do you want me to? I would love to. I love doing that. It's fun.
Let's do it.
Okay, we have inferior mirages, looming, other types of miraging. What?
No. The causes and the effects of it, not just the effects. Causes.
You're describing the
okay,
effects,
perfect. Yeah.
Sean.
Okay, perfect. Inferior mirages are when the air is warmer up on the ground than it is in the air.
Temperature.
Well,
okay, one.
Yeah.
Go to the next one. Go.
Yep. Typically during the day. Then you get atmospheric refraction, which is when light is low on the horizon, and that's when you get those reddish effects. That's because most of the blue and the greens
Angle
are
of
taken
incidence. Very good. Next one. Go.
Yep. And then there's looming. Looming. That's a good one too. Yep. That's when the air is colder that's when air is colder on the lower and the air is warmer on the above.
You already said temperature. Move on.
But those are two different types. I wanted to clarify those.
Yeah, it's two different effects.
And so I wanted to clarify. One's a
Temperature is the
mirage
cause.
and one's a what?
Temperature is the cause.
Yeah, temperature and light are the angle of incident. Basically, are all the factors. Yep.
That's it. There's no evaporation. There's no pressure.
Those are things that happen.
We're not even getting into those parameters yet.
Those
are things that happen in the atmosphere.
Water
Those aren't
currents
things
in that distance.
Again, currents have nothing to do with refraction. Nothing.
Okay, water currents are definitely temperature regulated.
Nothing.
You're telling me they 19
bullshit.
miles.
Aaron,
water currents have nothing to do with the atmosphere.
Aaron, you are throwing semantics of bullshit into the fucking game. Bye. Stop it. Don't do it. It's not going to work here. I'm not going to allow it to happen.
Think about it.
No. It's so stupid, I won't.
Fascist police, arrest this man.
Sure you don't. Never mind. You're funny, Travis.
Yeah. All you're doing, Sean, is describing the dynamic, right? You're not proving anything. I mean, I've been out every day in different temperatures.
Are you paying me for my time?
I've been out. If you don't want to,
are you paying me for my time, sir? Pay me for my time, and I will show you proof.
Draw up the contract, Sean.
No. This is a different contract.
I don't even know what the terms are.
This is a different contract. If you want proof from here, you need to draw up the contract and bring some money. Thank you.
What? I'm not asking you for proof.
You said I haven't shown proof. Well, if you want to see proof, draw up the contract, start paying me some money, and I'll start giving you some proof, Travis.
No, I already know that you won't, so I'm not even going to touch that contract.
Okay, well that's why there's no contract for your
That's
truth.
fine.
Okay, checking.
That's fine.
Okay, but so just so you know, it doesn't help when I ask you what is the details or explanation for your atmosphere of your ether band, and you want to say, do I want to pay you for your time? So I'll look at it the same way. You just drop me, Travis.
Okay, yeah, but you have to understand.
Did you just drop? Did you just drop me?
Did you just drop me,
Travis? Travis, did you just drop me?
Did I just
Contract law is binding, and it describes both parties' obligations. Sean, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to fulfill
Aaron,
your obligation?
Shut up. You're annoying me.
Travis?
You're annoying
in
me.
order to be paid.
Aaron, I'm pretty sure you're annoying Aaron as well, or Travis as well.
No.
So don't talk about contract law anymore. Come on.
I love Aaron too.
I love him. I love him so much.
I love him more.
But
the problem
is
Sean.
Okay, so Sean, let's wind.
Kind of like the first.
Let's wind the clock
on your,
back, Sean.
Thing.
Sean. Yeah. Let's wind the clock back.
Okay.
And you say, okay, Travis.
I'm kind of getting a headache looking at it. That was
so.
I'm sorry.
So
if we
fuck off, Sean. Goddammit.
I'm sorry, Travis.
If we rewind the clock and you say, okay, tell me about this ether band. What is it? And I say, it's air temperature, and it's water temperature, and it's humidity, and it's air pressure. Have I actually told you any fucking thing at all? No, I have not. Those are givens, Sean. That's not like monumental, mind-blowing fucking information. Those are basic givens.
Because I can tell you right now, your images are given resolution problem.
Okay, I'm going to tell you this one fucking more time. You have no fucking idea what you're talking about.
Yes, I do.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
I do.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Are you saying
Are you going to pay me for the answer?
Are you saying
Are you going to pay me for the answer?
If you want to draw up a contract, I'll reject it. Are you saying that this image? Hold on. Go back to the image before. Go back to the image before, please. Are you saying that if I focused better, this would be clear?
It'd be better. Yeah, you'd have more resolution.
Okay. Yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure. I'll bet you money I don't have. I'll bet you.
You said you had this on a video, didn't you?
Right. Yeah.
You have the video on your channel right now?
I have part of the video. I showed it to Toady UK earlier today. We didn't get this far because of the time limit that he had, but had we had more time, I would have gone to this next step because we were building up to
an upload that I could play. You can see this.
So the not this one. Oh well, actually, you know what? You'd have to go back to like last year. As you know what? As a matter of fact, I'm almost at the warehouse. I can scrounge up that. I can find it faster than you probably. So yeah, okay. But I don't remember how I presented it. If it was like just clips or what, I can't remember. But
yeah, I would definitely like to see it though.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you're more than welcome to come on my show, and I can show you the whole thing.
Well, you can't you just give me the link when you get to the warehouse?
I will try. It'll be like 6 minutes.
Okay.
So.
Cool. I'm excited.
Hey, Sean, it's also that second photo. I'd like to know what's hiding the bottom of the boat.
It's the ether band.
So the ether band makes water rise.
It's an ether band. It's no. The water is not blocking the bottom of the boat. That's an inferior mirage.
But there's no distortion along the water.
There is. There's no distortion. What?
Wait.
There's no distortion along the water.
He's talking about what's blocking.
Sure, there is.
He's talking about the bottom of the boat, not the that refractive band that's there. He's talking about the actual bottom of the boat. You know where the waves are.
The bottom of the boat. The bottom of the boat is not touching the visible water line that you can see. That is an inferior mirage.
No, those are waves.
Yeah, the inferior. No.
It's a wave, dude.
Stop. Okay.
This is your
That's wave and swell.
Why am I
That's
telling
how
you about
water
your picture,
acts.
dude? Jesus Christ.
No, you'd have to watch. Go back and whatever.
There is an inferior mirage there.
There is, but
that doesn't account.
Yeah.
That doesn't account for half of the boat.
Yeah, the obstruction of the boat.
Yeah, you can go ahead and watch this show that I did with Toady today. We started at the beginning of this image here.
So
and watched and talked about it together.
Wait. So on your show that you had with Toady today, I can go there and find the video in which this
image that you're looking at right now came from. Yes.
So I'll be able to see this in that.
This
video.
is Yeah. No, not this. Not this. I told you that we didn't get to that part yet because this was later. This was after, like a half an hour later, and we hadn't gotten to that part yet.
Okay. I'm just saying it's resolution.
So this part right here is a still taken from a video
of resolution failure.
No, it's not resolution failure. This is what you would have seen with your naked eye, Sean.
Travis, if that's 19 miles away and you couldn't take a clear photo with a digital camera, there is something wrong with the way you take fucking photos.
Yep.
Okay, if you were standing in front of me, I would kick you in the shin. Okay. Okay. I would pull your pigtails. I would tweak your nose. Okay. You have no fucking clue about what you're talking about. You think you do, but you don't.
You sure?
Hey, Sean, can you present my
say it again? Hold on, Aaron. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm going to say it once again.
What are you going to say?
That image, demonic. That image is what you would have seen with your naked eye.
No.
Yes. Your eyes can't zoom in.
I call bullshit. Yep.
I know you do, but you have no clue what you're talking about.
Are you sure?
Travis, what's the name of the island again?
The Anacapa Island, and you can look up the lighthouse. It's we did it today on the show again, but
you see
whatever.
this picture, Travis?
Which my eyes could zoom in.
You see this picture?
Yeah.
See how? I mean, I'd say that we got some resolution issues in the distance, but that's a pretty damn clear picture.
Of what?
Of a coastline. There's buildings. You can pretty much see those buildings.
Zoom in.
It's pretty decent. Well, zooming in on a picture doesn't work the same.
Huh?
Yeah, but you can see those pictures, right? Or those buildings.
Funny.
Right?
Oh, look, buildings.
Yeah. That's 48 miles away.
I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
How do I have better resolution from 48 miles away than you do at 19?
There's no exactly. It's a different fucking atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay.
You're in a different location. It's not the same atmosphere.
To say resolution.
The atmosphere doesn't change no matter your location on Earth.
Okay, that's a
prove it.
statement.
That's not true. That's like depends on like.
You're telling.
Show me the evidence that the density
you're
and the
me,
quantity of the atmosphere changes at any location on Earth.
Over 19 miles, I would agree. I'd say in that distance, it's not enough. But I just showed you you're wrong too, Travis, because I can see 48 miles away with and this was with my fucking iPhone, dude. You're telling me my iPhone's has better resolution than your P900? Or are you telling me that maybe
I'm telling you that the ether band in this situation
it's not ether band.
is presenting a different ether band.
These guys think that the atmosphere is like milk. It's homogeneous. You know, it's like one
act like
thing,
it is.
right? It's the atmosphere is inhomogeneous. Okay, it's a mix of fucking so much shit you guys don't even know, and that's what Travis is capturing, but you can't accept that.
All right, well, here's what's going to happen. Who is here? Well, you guys are all here. You guys want to talk for, like, I think I need about 6 minutes so I can help my son with something real quick?
Yeah, all good, Sean.
All right, yeah. I just want to let you guys know if I go silent, that's why.
I can talk for 5 minutes and 58 seconds.
Yeah, that's what he requests. I'll do the other 2.
Show my screen, Sean. It'll be badass.
Getting some lightning storms.
He's got tornadoes headed his way.
Take an image of the tornado. I haven't seen one.
Yeah, I want to see inside the eye of the tornado for scientific purposes. Just joking with you, Aaron. Just remember, if the rain stops, run.
That was a good one.
Yeah, running doesn't help.
No, I'm sitting in my truck that's hooked to a 4,000-pound trailer. It's got a 10,000-pound machine on it, so we'll see how it works.
That's some nasty ether band you got going on there, buddy.
Oh, that was nice.
What's the satellite say about where the actual hurricane is?
It's tornadoes, Terry.
Oh, tornado then. It should show it on the satellite where they are.
No, the satellite refracts through the storm, you see. So it's all ground-based.
So how do they get the image from above?
They don't. It's all CGI when you look at a radar. Come on. That's pretty nasty though, huh? God damn.
Aaron, you taste any copper in your mouth?
Say again, Sean?
I said you taste any copper in your mouth?
Ah, fuck you. I just had a weird metallic taste just now.
Yeah, that's the lightning getting closer.
I just tasted that. That's weird. Might have been the beer can I was sipping on though.
Better be careful. That beer can might act as a little lightning magnet.
A ground source, yeah.
That means you got to drink really, really fast.
Anyways, whoa, that was nice. It's kind of moving to the south of me, so I'm not too worried about it, but only a few miles south. The rotation. So I'm pointing the camera south right now, by the way.
You get a lot of chain lightning down there running through the sky?
Say again, Sean?
You get a lot of chain lightning running through the sky?
I'll point up. Yeah, most of it's cloud. Yeah, cloud to cloud. Sometimes you'll see chain, and then sometimes you'll see those ground strikes.
Yeah, the last time I was in Texas, I was at I can't even remember the name of the lake now. Supposedly the second cleanest lake in Texas or something, and sat under a pavilion watching the storm go across the sky. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's just cool to watch. I don't know if you guys want to keep watching it, but I am, obviously.
I just brought up a weather tracking satellite.
You mean a satelloon? You got to remember, we got people in the audience that don't believe in satellites or space.
I got no idea whereabouts you are. What state are you in, Aaron?
Texas, northeast Texas.
Oh yeah, you can see it.
Dallas doesn't look too good. Denton.
You need Denton, Aaron?
Yeah, I'm about I'm about an hour north of Dallas, downtown Dallas, but to the east. Like
Looks pretty shitty.
Yeah, Greenville's going to cop it. Commerce is going to cop it. Leonard's going to cop it. Cooper's going to cop it. McKinley's went over the top of McKinley.
Yep, exactly.
We're watching the live satellite of it now.
Yeah, they're calling for some bad ones. We'll see. Let me check the radar. By the way, I haven't checked it for a minute.
Just look at the screen on the meets.
Yeah, just look outside, right? Just look outside.
Yeah, but you can compare where you are on the map to where the storm is.
Oh yeah, there's a red one coming right at us. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Red's okay. That just means real hard rain, maybe heavy wind. When it gets purple, that means hail, possible rotation, shit like that.
Yeah, when it gets black is when you need to worry.
Yeah, because I can't see it.
Who needs the Weather Channel?
I don't have TV. Fuck that.
Yeah, me either. Just internet.
The Weather Channel has an app, you know that, don't you?
What's that, Douglas?
The Weather Channel has an application.
Yeah, I might lose you guys, but
That is a big front, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going right up past Sewers Falls, up into far north as the border nearly. Comes and swings back around.
yeah, I'm in Blue Ridge, Texas, northeast Texas. There might be another Blue Ridge. Texas is pretty big, but I'm in Blue Ridge, northeast Texas. You can see where I'm at.
No, that one's probably too small a town. We've got Wolf City, Celeste, Leonard, Bailey, Trenton, Greenville, Cooper.
Yeah, I'm about 20 minutes from Greenville to the north, actually. Northwest, just a hair.
Well, you got purple coming your way then.
I know it. What do we do?
Oh, you could head south.
Goddamn east. Goddamn.
Turn right.
Goddamn Travis.
Get on the road and head southeast.
Yeah, it's all because Travis invented the ether band is the reason you're getting tornadoes.
I know it. I know it.
So blame Travis.
I do. But I'll blame Travis, but I look to you guys for an explanation, which you cannot give. Thank you.
I can. It's the fact that you've got a low pressure system with a high pressure system above it.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I thought there was an equal gradient of atmosphere because due to gravity.
I'm not going to get into the semantics of how weather works with you, Aaron.
Yeah. You better not right now. So let me now talk to you. But so there's this gradient that goes up, of a pressure gradient. But however, there's a high pressure system moving over a low pressure system, and with another low pressure system moving into a high pressure. Okay, your gradient there just goes to shit.
It's actually called convection.
Then it's not called a gradient. Yeah, we know what it's called. We know how it works. And it's not called a gradient, and it's not due to gravity.
And they've got better satellites.
Definitely not due to satellites.
Sean G must be making some popcorn. Oh, that can't be real. It's black and white, Terry. Is that from the 1950s?
Where does it say that?
I'm just asking. Like, did you get that one from Flat Earth Data's Ancient Books of Congress?
Well, it seems to be daylight in this area of the Earth, and it seems to be nighttime over in that area of the Earth.
How's that work?
I don't know, some form of looming. It's a flat map.
I know you guys are not stupid, right? You're not stupid people. But
yeah, but we know how to act stupid.
No, when you ask these questions, it's like, are you stupid? But I know you're not stupid. But that's what it's like. It's like, how can you ask this question? It's so simple to understand from a flat Earth perspective and explanation. And I know you're breaking up.
But Travis, in the same respect, we can do the same thing. We can say the same exact thing. We know you're not stupid, but with all the evidence and everything else, we have to, sometimes it's like, okay, are you just not getting it? Is something not clear? I mean, it kind of goes both ways. It
doesn't go both ways, and here's why. Is because your system has to offer up an alternative explanation for how something that can't happen in reality happens. And in our world, we don't have that. We have phenomenon that we have natural explanations for. We don't have to invent anything magical like gravity. But
that's the thing is you are inventing new things at this moment.
Okay.
Meanwhile,
hold on.
we have had this discussion for, well, I mean, the discussion has gone on for I don't know how many years, to tell you the truth.
All right. So when you say, hold on real quick. When you say right now, you invent things, are you talking about the ether band?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's stick with that. Okay. So when you guys ask us questions about our science, okay, I'm just in this now for almost 2 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So my foray into this investigation is even less than that, right? So let's say I'm only in this for a year. and I'm only doing it in a very limited part time. I'm not going to give you an encyclopedic record and accounting for what I'm understanding or postulating or surmising, you know? So my scientific precision and expertise is not going to reflect the hundreds of years that have been refined over and over again in your world. So yeah, I'm going to start talking about something differently to distinguish myself from your system in order to have that distinction. And yet I'm being faulted for it. So imagine, this is why I say I'm your Copernicus, imagine what Copernicus went through when he started suggesting an alternative to the worldview, right? Can you imagine people coming to him and saying, what the hell is this? What term are you? What? We don't talk this way. This isn't the way the science. I mean, come on, guys, loosen up. Have some.
But here's the problem though. Copernicus was using known tools, which was the mathematics at the time, to be able to describe what he was seeing. And what when I'm explaining things like optics to you, it's not because it's not because I have all the knowledge of optics. It's because I have some knowledge, and that knowledge comes from experience, and also from knowledge from the few hundred years in the past.
Okay, so let me offer this suggestion. That I'm presenting you with information about which you have no experience, and you might have to adjust your knowledge. So when you say to me that the image...
Wait. Okay. I just explained to you that I have limited knowledge on a topic.
And yet you are declaring to me that the image that I'm presenting to you is due to my failure.
I'm not saying that it's your failure. I think that there is a limitation to the camera that you're using. Yes, definitely. I think that the atmosphere plays a major part in it. Yes, definitely. Do I think it's a failure on your part? No. You are doing exactly what you know how to do.
Well, it came across to me from at least Sean G, and from possibly my associating your response with him. It was clear to me that he was blaming me for the faulty image. Like, if you would have just resolved this, or if you would have just focused on this, like this image resolution is due to your failure. That's the way it came across to me.
But that's why when I described it, I described it as a resolution with the camera, because the camera reaches its limit of optical ability. There's there is a point where that camera is just not going to be able to resolve a picture. And your eyes are fantastic pieces of biological mechanics. Fantastic. But you can't always trust your eyes to see what is out there.
Yeah, you can.
No. If you think you can trust your eyes to see what is out there, then you may want to be careful when you're driving.
Okay, so when Sean pulls up the and I put it in the side chat as well, so you can watch it on your own. What you will see is exactly what was in front of you. Okay, so what I'm saying is I can trust that my eyes are seeing that image. That's what I'm seeing. That's exactly what's there. Now, is what I'm seeing an accurate representation of what's there? In reality? And I would say no, because of the information that I have. I know more, right? So in the second still image that I sent you guys, you could see a larger portion of the island with the lighthouse on it clearly, right? So can I trust my eyes? Yeah, the boat's there, the water's there, there's some inferior miraging there, and I can see the lighthouse. I can trust my eyes. So when I show you the other image of that lighthouse and there's less land, not only is there less land, but there's land on top of the fucking lighthouse. Okay, that dark image on top of the lighthouse is land on top of the lighthouse. Okay? Now, can I trust my eyes? Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Is that reality? No. How do I know? Because I know what I'm looking at and I've seen it when it's not distorted. So, yes, you can trust your eyes. Your eyes are always seeing what is there in front of you.
But Travis, here's the problem. If you had no idea what was out there,
I've already qualified this. You're going to be repeating what I've already qualified.
No, if you had no idea what was out there, and you looked out and you saw that, would you believe it?
He's talking about one instance, Travis. Tell him about.
No. I'm talking about exactly what we are talking about. Can you trust your eyes?
Yes.
Because if you looked out there and you saw that exact picture, if you saw that and you saw land above those the lighthouse, at that moment, would you trust your eyes?
Yes, my eyes are showing me what's there.
So that would be land above the lighthouse, and that would be real.
Were you not paying attention to anything I just said? Because I already qualified.
Yes, I was.
Sean. Then why are you asking me the question I qualified?
I explained it using. You had never seen that before. You had never been there.
Okay.
This was the very first time.
Oh my God! I qualified what I said earlier. I said the only reason I know that's not reality is because I've seen the island.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
Answer your own question then.
So if you had seen it for the first time, would you believe it? Because that would be trusting your eyes.
What I believe
right?
What? What I believe what?
That there is land above the lighthouse.
I wouldn't understand what I was seeing, but I would see it, right? Okay, so it's like the floaty land. So when you see this video that I play, okay, you're gonna have the flying Anacapa, like the Flying Dutchman, right? You're gonna have a boat that's actually an island floating above the water, so it looks like it's floating, okay? Now, I'm looking at that with my eyes, and I can see that with my naked eye. I'm
Travis,
looking at...
just concede and say, with those atmospheric effects at the distance that your camera is picking up, if we could see that with our naked eye, if we actually could, maybe I might be like, no, that's not real, because I've been to the Anacapa Islands and I know there's not another island on top of the lighthouse, you know? Sean's going into your...
I'm saying that I would see
your focal.
I would see it, Sean, and I would possibly interpret, what I'm seeing, and I could be wrong. I could guess at what I'm seeing and go, wow, what the hell am I seeing? Which is what happened on a different day. I'm shooting this the same island. I'm shooting the same island, and I get this weird atmospheric mirroring. And
Sean is trying to equivocate your eye to the lens of your camera, and we can't do that. Yeah.
Actually, no, I wasn't. I wasn't at all. I was asking a simple question about your eyes and whether you could trust them or not.
I'm back.
If you had seen the image the very first time, and it had land above the lighthouse, would you trust it?
That image is at 900 times zoom or whatever Travis's camera is, right? So we
Aaron, that's not the question.
No. But that's like saying, "Oh, I saw a ghost."
No, not even close.
But it is. It's the same thing as saying, "I saw a ghost."
Okay. Go look at how
Seeing
many
an
people on
atmospheric
YouTube have seen
mirage
ghosts, and yeah,
is the same as seeing a ghost.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there, but that's not actually what's happening.
No,
Okay.
that is what's happening.
Yeah.
That is what's happening.
Image, yeah. In the image, that is what's happening. Yeah.
If you see a mirage and you move closer to the object, the mirage is no longer there. Therefore, you have seen what is classified as an apparition.
Yeah, stop moving.
Travis
Yeah, of
is
course.
moving.
Of course, if you move, you're going to change it. I've said that from the beginning. You're going to change the way the image is distorted. Okay, so look, go with your mirage, okay? You're out in the desert and you're walking toward a mountain, but at a distance, it looks like this ghost. You're like, fuck, there's a ghost on the distant horizon. Fuck, what am I going to do? But then you get closer and you get closer and it grows bigger and bigger. You're like, oh, fuck,
And
that
it's
wasn't
not
a
there.
ghost. No, it is there. Okay, stop telling my story. You walk closer. You walk closer. You walk closer to the mountain, and it changes and it grows, and then you realize, oh, that wasn't a ghost. That was actually a mountain. You saw the mountain, but at the distance you saw it, the ether band was affecting it, and it made it look the way that it did.
What part of the atmospheric optics are you speaking of?
The humidity and the moisture and the temperature and the wind and the air pressure and they're all together dancing.
Which was?
Which was what?
Which was I like the data that you're speaking of.
You're such a tool. Look, I sent you the video.
Okay, but what about the data?
What about the data? What about the data?
We gave those to Barney, didn't we?
Yeah, I gave the data to Barney. Yep, that's right.
No, I don't think you did.
You don't think I did, so now you're calling me a liar again.
Me and Barney are not the same person, so that makes zero difference to me.
Okay, well, if you want to take over his responsibility of taking the data that I gave him and crunching your numbers,
his responsibilities are not my responsibilities.
I said if you want to take over.
Nope.
Sean.
Not my
Okay.
responsibility.
Anyway, so I sent you the video if you want to play the video.
Again,
Sean.
should I be paying you guys to be here? And if you say contract, shouldn't you guys leave before the contract?
Man, fuck you, Sean. I pay you to be here.
No, you
Come
don't.
You give that freely.
You can take the fuck off. Yeah, you stupidly do that freely, and trust me, I don't need it. And the only reason I even talk like that, the only reason why I continue to talk like that is because Travis continues to tell me I have to pay him to explain the ether band.
Sean's fused. Sean, he's fused right now. Listen to him. He's a lit fused.
Who?
Look, I'm not saying you have to pay me to explain Etherband. If you want more details, that's going to require me to devote more of my time to give you those details. That's what I'm talking about. If you want me to just simply describe what I'm seeing, I can do that. But you're not asking me to do that. You're asking me for more details that would require me to do more than just explain something to you right now, which you haven't been happy with.
Sean G, isn't it amazing how science requires data to come up with the facts?
Yeah, and those fuckers get paid.
Isn't it amazing, Travis, how Sanji likes to equivocate inferior mirage with temperature, looming evaporation, superior mirage.
Wait. Time the fuck out.
Pressure.
Time out,
But he
Aaron.
doesn't want to call it the same thing.
I never once said looming was him. It was the what did you call it?
I know. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, no.
That's what we're saying. It is.
You just said all the stuff that you just said. You were naming a list of things that I said, and I told you, yes, inferior mirage versus looming. Yeah, it really matters on how it works, and I'm not getting any information on how anything works inside Travis's ether band.
look into it and see what the cause for
Look
that
into
is.
what? I know what atmospheric optics and blooming, inferior mirages, all those type of things.
Temperature,
I do know.
pressure,
I know all
humidity,
those. But the ether
evaporation.
No, all you're doing is
density,
describing those things. You're not
distance.
diagnosing stuff. You're not breaking the thing down, Sean. You're doing the same thing I'm saying. All we're doing is saying the same elemental breakdown, but you're not analyzing shit. You're not doing things at a distance and analyzing the temperature and
Yes, I
bullshit
am.
about the water
I am.
temperature.
I am.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I am.
Okay, I apologize. Where are you diagnosing distance, elevation?
I showed you the image already.
Okay, do you know what the air temperature was of that day?
68 degrees at where I was. 68 degrees where I was, and 73 at the coast.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and what was the ground temperature?
I just gave you the ground temperature.
No, you said...
What was the barometric pressure at the boat?
Okay, what was the air temperature then, Sean?
I didn't have a boat in my image. I just told... It's the same thing.
Sorry.
So the air temperature and the ground temperature were the same?
Yes.
Okay, how did you know that?
It was a very calm day.
That's a non-answer. How did you know?
No, there was no wind.
Oh my God.
Okay.
There was nothing to change the temperature.
What were the sunlight conditions? Was it bright sunlight, a little bit cloudy, hazy, foggy, misty,
low UV day,
muggy,
partly cloudy?
Yeah.
UV
Did
level
you have
was
to
down.
put on sunscreen or not?
No, UV level was down.
Hang on, Sean.
70-mile visibility.
These guys aren't paying you for this information. You need to stop right now.
You're right. Thank you, my spokesman and attorney. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, he didn't offer a contract.
I did.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. You can
Yeah, he said if you want my information, you got to pay.
Okay, fuck. Do you not fucking understand what a contract is?
I love when you get angry.
Sean didn't offer a contract or a contrast. Neither.
Anyway, show the video, Sean.
What?
I sent you the video in Skype.
Oh, okay. Let me look. I'm sorry, that shit's funny.
Travis, do you put the phone out the window when you honk the horn, or is it just that loud inside the cab?
It's that loud, yeah.
It's air, right?
Yeah.
Of course it's air.
That's because the horn's usually sitting right outside that cab. The vibrations.
Right on top. Yeah, right on top.
What'd you just say?
And depending on the ether band, it's the tone of the horn.
Aaron, what did you just say? I think
the
Aaron
horns
told me
are
not-
on top of the cab. Yeah.
Others just told me not to talk. Like what?
What happened?
I thought you just
No,
told me
he
not
didn't
to talk.
say that. No, he didn't say that.
I was kind of.
No, I said the horns are on top of the cab. Is what I said.
Sometimes. Lately, they usually put them in the chassis now, like right under the driver. In a lot of cases.
Yeah,
Not
especially
all.
if you use train horns. Train horns are badass.
Yeah, I want to buy one. Put it on my truck.
Fucking just blast people right next to you in traffic.
Damn right.
I think it'd be funnier to put it on a Mini Cooper.
I have a Mini Cooper.
They work well in car parks when you want.
doubt that a bit.
They work well in car parks when you got pedestrians walking in front of you.
1995.
Travis, don't brag about having a Mini. Thank you.
For real.
It's zippy. I like it.
I wouldn't.
That's so cute.
I wouldn't consider having a gay-mobile to be zipping to be a great thing.
You open that door, Travis. Yeah.
It's not gay.
It's not gay. It's just.
He called it zippy.
Yeah, you did call it zippy. That's gay.
What the fuck is zippy? That's weird. Is that another ether band effect?
Go zippy.
That came out of nowhere. Aaron with the one from left field. That was kind of harsh.
You guys all give me shit. I'll give everybody else shit too. Come on.
I just didn't expect.
All right, here's the video.
To hit. I share it on my full screen so everyone can see it. Ooh, what the hell happened to that one?
That's CGI.
Yeah, that's not real.
Yeah.
I was showing some CGI photos earlier.
Is that Google Earth?
You ignoring us on
Yes,
purpose?
it is. Am I what?
Okay, so here's shot from camera position to the Anacopa Islands, 19.28
Anacapa.
miles. Whatever. Height, 55 feet. Aw, I think it's cute. Like a zippy little car.
That's a zippy photo.
See how you're zoomed in to the waves water line in front of you? That's why it's resolution. See, there's miraging happening, but I'm telling you right now, it's your resolution of
You can't
the
zoom in
lighthouse.
any clearer. You couldn't make that any clearer.
I bet you can.
I know you bet you can, but you're wrong.
Okay, well, you're telling me that the P900's resolution distant limit is 19 miles?
According to the ether band, yeah.
What's the ether band?
Yeah, what is this? What is this ether band? Can you describe it? Tell us what it is.
Oh my God, it's the air, it's the temperature, it's the humidity, it's
atmospheric. So it's atmospheric effect. Is that what you're saying?
I think atmospheric effect comes off the tongue better than ether band.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Chills.
So
can you break down the word you just said? The conjunction atmosphere.
I can't.
Refraction.
I can't.
Weather conditions.
So
can
rather
you break
than
that down even further? Can you break them all down? Just break it down to the basics, if you would. Thank you.
Don't do it, Shills.
Make them pay you.
So why are you calling it the ether band rather than just calling it atmospheric conditions?
I've already explained
because
this,
it's not.
Shills.
It's not. Atmospheric effects is a homogeneous type of, yes, it is. It's just like the one thing.
Aaron, let the grown-ups talk.
Can you please break down atmospheric effects for us? What causes atmospheric effects?
Atmospheric conditions.
What causes the atmospheric effects? The atmosphere.
That's great. That's great. You just reworded it. Go ahead. What causes atmospheric?
I mean, why are we trying to invent some bullshit word, ether band, to muddy up the waters? Why not say, okay, this is mirage, this is haze.
Because the ether band is the cause, not the effect.
It's the cause.
Yeah, I've said this already.
It's the cause. It's the cause of what?
A mirage is not the cause of atmospheric effects, right?
Aaron, stay out of it. Grown-ups are talking.
I'm glad you think I'm a grown-up. Appreciate that.
So this ether band that you have created in your mind is the cause.
I haven't created the ether band in my mind. I haven't created the ether band in my mind except for the word.
So it's the cause. Okay.
It's the cause. That's correct.
So what is the cause?
Yeah. What exactly does it cause?
Shills, do you remember reading my explanation last week or the week before
Nope.
when you read
Sure
it?
don't. I'm an old man. I don't forget shit.
You read it. Where I went into more detail to describe what I meant by my term.
Nope.
What, in 20 words or less?
I've already done it. I've already done it tonight.
Why do you want to invent some term that you've got to explain every damn time, rather than use terms that are already there?
That's not
rather than use terms that are already there, that we already understand, that we already know, that we already have formulae for, that we already understand, and you want to mash them all together and muddy up the waters and call it ether band.
No, I'm not mashing them all together, Shills. No. I haven't redefined inferior mirage or fata morgana or any of those things. I haven't even redefined ether band. I've just relabeled the atmospheric distortion or the atmospheric effect as ether band.
So why not call it atmospheric effect or atmospheric distortion rather than create some word?
Because I believe that I'm addressing what I see as a deficiency in simply saying atmospheric distortion or atmospheric effect.
Why don't we just make up new names for everything? That'll clarify it.
Go for it. I wouldn't cry at you. I would just ask you to define your term and go, okay, I understand what you're talking about.
Oh, so he asks you to do what we do to him.
You mean? Hey, Shills, you mean like a temperature inversion, and we'll just call it an inferior mirage? Just make up words for it, right? Or we'll just even step back and go.
Aaron,
go ahead.
Grown-ups are talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my stupidest showing, right?
I'll join you over at the children's table and crayon with you, Aaron.
Travis, we shouldn't make up new words for causes of things, such as, looming, compression, mirage,
looming, super looming,
superior that. Yeah, we shouldn't do that because
and try to lump all that shit together.
I'm not lumping anything together, Shills.
But you do. You say that numerous effects are the one thing.
No. What he's saying is numerous effects you guys cannot explain with one thing.
Yeah, we call it atmospheric effects.
Name one.
Looming.
Okay, nope. That didn't happen in Travis's video. Yeah. Nope.
Oh, in Travis's? Inferior Mirage.
Yeah, but it didn't happen in his video yesterday at 2
I'm looking at it right now.
Yep. Okay. No, I said looming, not inferior.
No, I said, I did. I said inferior.
Yeah, well, okay, so you guys...
You asked me to name an atmospheric effect.
Of Travis's video.
No, you didn't say that.
You didn't say that.
Okay.
You just asked him to name one.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, then you need to leave, rewind the stream, watch it, then come back.
Okay.
Or not, either one.
Yeah.
I'll loom the stream. I'll loom it back up tomorrow.
Aaron, honestly, Aaron, you know what? I enjoy talking to you when we're not talking about topics like this. But when we're talking about topics like this and you're on a panel and you have an audience, all you are is a shit disturber. You stir the pot, you cause trouble on both sides because you're a troll, self-admitted, and you enjoy fucking with people. And you know what? I've had it. I'm about up to here with your bullshit, okay? If you want to talk, when there's not, if you want to talk up to me without an audience, I will gladly do it. But with an audience, I'm about done.
What does that mean about done?
I didn't address you.
quantify
And
about
I was
done?
talking. I was
And up
actually
to here.
talking to Sean. But you brought up a good point, Schultz. You said we're talking about topics. Can you name the topic? Go ahead, Travis.
I've got nothing to say right now.
I want to learn how a P900 works.
Not very well.
Not Travis's.
Sorry, Demonic, that's not the topic.
Demonic, you're wrong.
Is that Terry? Who is it? Sorry,
That's
Terry,
me,
I'm so
Aaron.
sorry. I'm sorry.
That's me, Aaron. I thought you knew who I was.
Hey, mate, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So, Blaine, what causes this ether band that you have created in your mind?
The air, distance, the object that you're looking at, the temperature, the humidity, the
Evaporation, pressure, currents.
Yeah, atmospheric effects. Each a separate
No,
individual thing.
No. The atmospheric effects are the effects, not the cause of ether band.
I'm paid. This is going round in fucking circles.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to define.
No, it's not. No, it's only going in
I'm
two
trying
ways.
to clarify what
Cause and effect.
Atmosphere is what is the generic cause. If it wasn't for the atmosphere, we wouldn't have these effects.
The atmosphere is an effect, right?
No, the atmosphere is there.
Is the atmosphere a cause?
Aaron.
Okay, certain things happen in the atmosphere which cause certain optical effects.
If it wasn't for the atmosphere, we wouldn't have these effects.
Can you name those causes?
Nope, we already did. Just did a minute ago.
All right.
Figure it out.
All right.
Am I getting
we
paid?
have.
You done, Aaron? Well, I literally let you go on your little trolling binge on purpose. So are you done? Done? Yes?
We're good, Sean. Don't worry about it. We're good.
Just checking. Want to make sure you're done. Or so we can actually start. No?
We can
We're getting back into refraction, are we, Sean?
Yes, I would.
But I'm not signing no contracts.
Done? I'll ask you again. I don't mind. Okay, we're good. Okay, perfect. So, the selenelion eclipse. Can that be explained on a flat Earth yet? And I'm giving you an easy one so far.
What's the question, Sean? Topic?
Lunar eclipse. Flat Earth. Go. No.
Can we move first to a solar eclipse? Can we move first to a solar eclipse?
No.
What do we see? Well, we can because that's something that we.
Nope.
That thousands of people have observed.
No, I'm not in the.
No. No, we're on lunar eclipses caused by refraction.
Yep.
Yes, a 70-mile shadow caused by the moon on the surface of the Earth. The moon is how much? What is the ratio of the size or diameter from the moon to the Earth? What is?
No, we're not talking about this, are we, Sean?
Nope.
Okay, well, when you switch those spheres in your world, and you have the Earth blocking the sun, against the moon to cause what you call lunar eclipse, why is the moon still lit? Why is that?
During a lunar eclipse, it's actually
In a lunar eclipse, why is the moon still lit? Why can you still see?
because because the sun's bigger
That's
than
weird.
the Earth. Yeah, sorry. Sun's bigger than the Earth. That's why. Any other? Oh, already. It's fun.
I mean, given the size of the Earth being the shadow, apparently,
Yeah.
and with the moon in perfect proximity to be in that shadow.
Yep, that's crazy, huh?
Why is the moon still lit? It's weird.
I just said it.
Yeah, they don't understand how the light actually goes through the atmosphere, which is what's causing the moon to still be lit during the lunar eclipse.
And have that reddish look. You need to see that look. Do you see it again? I can show you.
No, that all sounds great. You know.
Yeah.
Where does the red light come from?
The absence of the blues and the greens.
Because the longer wavelength light actually makes it through the atmosphere to the moon.
Yep.
Well, there are no clouds on the Earth at the time this shadow, this light's trying to pass.
Obviously not.
And it's not refracting. This light is not refracting off the top of the clouds.
Obviously not.
What the hell do clouds have to do with something on a galactic scale?
Nothing. Aaron's just stirring the pot like he usually does. I don't even know why he's here.
Yeah, he's about to
I was
get
asking questions, Chills. I was just asking questions.
You're definitely not asking questions. I definitely don't think it's funny either.
You're not, you're right. I'm not asking questions, am I? Right?
No.
Okay, that was a question.
I gave you an answer. Now, are you done yet? I will wait.
So, Plane, have you made any measurements or done anything to try and define this thing you invented called the ether band? Anything to clarify it, or you just continued throwing the word around without doing anything to make it something people can actually understand rather than something that has to be explained to them?
I'm not really sure how that disqualifies the information that I present. So when I talk about this within my own circles, I don't get the grief and the shit from those circles that I get from you guys.
That's cool.
They seem to understand what I'm saying.
Sounds like indoctrination to me.
Yeah. A little bit.
I don't have a problem with indoctrination.
The reason I'm
wow.
There's a sound clip. There's a sound clip for you.
Damn right there is.
The reason I'm riding you like a rented mule about this. Go ahead, say it.
I don't have a problem with indoctrination.
All right. The reason I'm riding you like a rented mule about this is because
I love your little
you're
quips.
inventing.
I love your little quips.
Well, that's great.
Like a rented mule.
Is that like your lady lumps?
Like a rented mule.
We're going to go balls deep here and ask for a cuddle later.
Pretty much. The reason I'm on you like this is because I firmly believe that you just invented this term for the sole purpose of muddying the waters by taking a whole bunch of atmospheric effects and conditions, lumping them together, and then just saying ether band. You've created something. Something. You have created something that does nothing but cause confusion.
I'm not confused.
A little bit.
I'm not confused.
Yeah, you are.
No, you are.
Aaron, do you even know what confused is?
Again, shows what you're doing is you're conflating the effects and the cause. I'm not lumping anything together.
But we ask you what a condition is, and you go ether band.
No.
No. But both Aaron and I are both saying no for a good reason.
Why?
Yeah, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's why.
Yeah, I'd say that one too.
You did, first of all, you didn't ask us what a condition is, and Travis has never ever said ether band to the word condition.
Aaron, shut up for a minute. Okay, we ask Travis to explain what's happening in a photo, and he goes ether band.
Sure.
No.
Sure.
Well, okay, listen. I would say sure. Like maybe he said that. I don't know. It all depends on your look. You're bringing up a hypothetical. We asked Travis what happened in a photo, and he said ether band. Well, yes, I've heard him say that, but I'm not saying how specific Travis was being when he may or may not have said that to your photo that you're hypothetically bringing up.
He said it like 30 minutes ago. I said, "What's hiding the bottom of that boat?" He goes, "Ether band."
Yeah. Right. You didn't ask what the condition was.
Yeah, I did. I did twice.
Okay,
That's the whole basis of me asking you about the ether band is to find out those details, and you've avoided them every time.
I have not. No, I've given you the.
No, you really have.
I've given you the
definitely
elements.
have. You definitely have.
No, I definitely
The condition, the condition,
Okay.
Sean, that may bring up Travis's response to
I
ether
definitely
band.
haven't.
Yeah, you definitely.
The conditions that may bring up Travis's response
No, you definitely
as ether band.
No, I definitely
No,
haven't.
you definitely have.
No, I definitely haven't.
Yeah, you have.
The conditions.
Definitely
Hello, are
haven't.
we on
Yeah, you
mute
definitely
here?
have.
Is everybody? Are we on mute? Is everybody on mute? What's going on? Heat, temperature, pressure, currents, evaporation, condensation, currents, you name it, distance, focal length, temperature of the object you're viewing versus the temperature of the object it's on. I mean, gee whiz.
Then why not name
What about
the
the
actual
curvature of the
problem?
Earth then, Aaron?
Well, because there is no observation of curve yet, Sean. That's the thing. If there was, we'd have to name it.
Let's say that out loud. I meant it.
But at 19 miles, there should be, according to a certain calculator, a certain amount of obstruction that is not being seen at distance.
Aaron, at 9 miles from the surface of the Earth, the actual drop is 6 feet.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think
That's
so,
not true.
by the way. I think
The
it's more like
distance,
30 or 40 feet.
if you're standing on the shore and looking out at 9 miles, the drop is 72 inches.
19 miles. 19.
I'm just giving you
That's
scale here.
That's not true.
Yeah. 19 miles.
At 9 miles, it is 6 feet.
19 miles.
You're like a handicapped child, all of you. I'm not that Travis and Aaron. You are literally being talked to, and you guys literally are ignoring everything we're saying on purpose. That's what I'm saying right now. Right?
No, we're not ignoring it. We're not ignoring
yeah,
it. We're disagreeing with it.
Yeah, you're ignoring the shit out of it.
No, we're disagreeing. We're disagreeing with it.
Yeah, I hear everything you say, Sean.
I'm definitely feeling like you guys are purposely doing it.
I'm definitely listening to everything you said.
Are you hearing
It's
me,
your
though?
show.
Hearing me though?
Yeah.
You sure?
If what you mean by hearing is agreeing, no, we don't agree.
I didn't know. No, yeah, I don't agree with you.
But we hear you. Yeah, we hear what
sure?
you're saying.
Sure.
I just heard you.
The word is comprehend.
So then, what?
Acknowledge.
Then
Acknowledge.
explain to me.
It's another word.
Explain to me how
No, that's different.
how a selenelion eclipse occurs.
Which one? Say
Something
again.
up in the sky, a selenelion.
Oh, okay. It's not called a selenelion eclipse, is it?
Well, the one that he's not describing now a lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse is different than a selenelion.
No, it's not.
So selenelion is just a path of the sun through the sky at solar noon throughout the year from
Okay,
a certain
all right,
position.
let me ask this question, Sean. Is every lunar eclipse a selenelion?
Nope, not even close.
Okay, then that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, what is it then?
I'm saying they're not the same.
What
they're
is
not
it
the
then?
Same.
What is it?
Well, a selenelion is where the sun and the moon are above the horizon, and there's an eclipse on the...
How much above the horizon?
I don't give a shit.
You should, because that's part of answering it.
In your world?
No, same world. We live in the same world,
No,
Travis.
No, right, but in my world, the Earth is
same
not...
world. Live in the same world, Travis. No, same world.
Okay, right. So on a flat Earth,
the
Earth is not the cause of the eclipse.
No, not gonna work for me.
Okay.
Let me ask Sean a question.
What's up, buddy?
Travis Becker.
What's up, buddy?
Sean,
what's up, buddy?
Have you studied the selenelion
Yes, I have.
eclipses for a long time, or did you just
for like
Google
months,
it and
years.
ask your question?
Almost years.
Okay, so do you have a paper you can write, like Radley?
Yeah,
kind
I
of
was
write a
showing it.
paper.
No.
Yeah,
I took a lot of notes.
census,
A lot of notes.
You have notes?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of notes.
Sean, Aaron just asked you to write a piece of shit thesis like Anthony Riley wrote that is unbelievable and has no basis in fact.
Which is exactly what Sean's doing by asking the question about something he knows nothing about. He knows nothing.
He knows more than you do, Aaron.
You think I was listening to Aaron at all? I was I don't know what he was even asking me. I was literally just not paying attention.
He was checking his notes and researching selenelion, apparently. Yeah.
No. Actually, I was playing with my background.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, you've got to understand, if you make assertions, you need to have something to back it up with.
Oh, it was a question. I asked Sean if he'd researched selenelion or not.
Again, I wasn't paying attention to you.
No worries.
Yeah, no worries. That's good.
So back to the lunar eclipse. Yeah.
What about them?
Wow. How come there's a literal dark spot shot on the Earth from the sun moon eclipse there? I mean, so much so that it's dark. You need flashlights, to look around.
It usually happens at dark.
Man, that's pretty cool. And then how come when the Earth is in between the alleged sun and moon, the moon is just lit? It's like, okay,
it's not. It's because the Earth isn't directly.
There is no shadow.
The Earth is not directly in line. That's why.
There should be like at least a 70-mile shadow on the moon, but there's not.
It doesn't work.
Why would?
Aaron, stop trolling. Earth has an atmosphere. The moon doesn't. Atmosphere refracts. Hush.
Okay. Let's go. Okay, we're back to the beginning. Can you please show me an example of light refracting through a medium?
Rainbows. Next topic.
Can you please show me evidence or a video of light refracting through a medium?
No.
Here's where I'm gonna fuck with you.
Nope.
Aaron, look it up yourself.
Nope.
Here's where I'm gonna fuck with you, Sean. I'm just gonna fuck with you a little bit. I'm gonna troll, Shills. I'm gonna troll a little bit.
You're gonna get kicked off
Every
this panel.
every video evidence that we look up of Snell's law and light refracting has to do with a plane, a perfect flat plane through a different medium.
Nope.
Now, what I want to see is light refracting.
You're a liar.
Light refracting through a sphere or a round.
I don't care a little
bit. Something
Rainbows.
round.
You mean like a rainbow? You mean like a rainbow?
You guys touch rainbows?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Touch them?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've touched
You ever use a garden hose?
You and Brenda?
Ever seen a sprinkler?
Hey,
what?
Aaron, I'm gonna tell you right now. You ever make a comment like that again, you'll never in your life get on my panel. You understand me?
Hey, Choose.
Do
pick
you
your poison.
understand? Hey, do you understand me?
Pick your poison.
Do
Pick your
you
poison.
understand me, Aaron?
Pick your poison. You don't yell at me. You don't yell
I just picked my fucking poison. You're no
I'm
longer
being
welcome
fine.
on my panel ever again, Aaron.
That takes care of that.
Someone else want to make a fucking stupid comment? I don't give a fuck. I'll kick every. So if some people understand this, I don't give a fuck who you are. Ever disrespect people like that again? That was fucking insane. Aaron, you are the most disrespectful fucking troll on earth. Do not come on my fucking panel again. You are no longer welcome here. All right.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry, Sean.
Yeah, he made a comment about somebody that was completely unnecessary.
Oh.
Not even here to defend himself. What's up, Travis?
I sent you another video that's just 27 seconds if you want to show it and discuss it.
Okay, I'm gonna go there right now.
This is the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I'm opening it up right now. Let me get to it.
I think I have I can't remember if I just go straight to the video or if it's got my intro. If it has my intro is a minute long. You can skip to 1 minute.
You sent me 2 of them. Okay, it was probably this recent one.
Aaron just texted me a sad face with a tear.
Aww.
Well, he shouldn't be a dick.
Yeah. Tell him to upload a public apology to Brenda and it be sincere. I'll let him back on. But I gotta see that first. Yeah, it's only 26 seconds. I'll start it up right now. I think this is the video I saw that I first was introduced to who you were.
No, that's not good.
I will share it. Internet world.
Oh look, pictures.
So I'm gonna pan.
See, at least with Travis,
yeah,
he brings information.
So I'm gonna pan to the left. I'm gonna catch some birds in flight, and then I'm gonna follow them until they disappear.
Just wanted to fix the resolution, make it a little bit better.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, but that's giving me blurry eyes. I got bad eyes to look at those images. That's why we don't see in images like that in natural.
No, that's what I would have seen with my naked eye if I could have seen that far.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
no way you could see that anyone's eyes are like that.
If you could see that far.
Well, it was like 2 miles away, 3 miles away. And
There's no one on Earth can see that image like that.
That's the way the image is if you could see it.
That's the way that image is in the camera.
Yeah, camera sees it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can't work that one out.
It helps your senses.
So
okay,
anyway,
so
my question is, you have water in the foreground and you have water in the background, and the birds disappear in between.
That's well, for one, those are very small.
Where did the birds go?
An observation of that distance.
Listen, I can't ask the birds.
There's a lot of miraging as well, so I would like to say that.
Well, unless you can point that out. Can you point that out in the video, Sean?
Miraging?
Did you see the fish pop its head up out of the water at the time when the bird flew over?
Yeah, probably. It was ill, son.
What?
Huh?
I didn't understand. I didn't understand what you just said.
Oh, I was just making a comment about how cool.
I'm sorry, I've got an Australian accent.
No, I understood what you said. I didn't understand what Sean said.
Exactly.
So why is
you guys
it?
hear my son in the background or not?
Yes.
Only very faintly, Sean. Not
Yeah,
it's not
just a little bit,
distracting
not
too
much.
So why is this video so remarkable?
Yeah, I would love to know.
Where did the birds go?
Their
What
mothers.
bird?
They probably landed on the water and you can't resolve them.
Yeah, and
They were flying.
Yeah, and if they land on the water.
Yeah, they float.
So go back and show me. I know what birds look like when they come in for a landing. I have hundreds of images of birds flying and then coming in for a landing.
Did you catch them coming back out?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Just go back and look at it.
We did.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Did you catch them on the way back out?
Let's look at it again and have him describe. Hang on. Let's look at it again and have Plane describe what he is seeing during this video.
Yeah, that sounds a good idea. Give us a blow-by-blow description of what you see as we see it.
You said blow.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, blow.
Okay, so we've got birds in flight.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In my opinion, they don't exhibit any signs of landing. They simply disappear in flight.
Wait a minute.
Then where did they go?
Hang on. Nope,
Right,
those
Why have they not? If they were still flying, why have they not come back up yet?
Well, if you notice, I didn't follow them
watch.
because I continued on to the left. I was just making the point once they disappeared.
Nope, sorry, Travis.
I asked the question,
They were
where did the birds go?
Wait, I'm forgetting.
My answer is
inconclusive evidence.
No, my answer is that they go below our
Travis,
angle
sorry.
of resolution.
I was muted, so I was trying to tell you. No, right where I paused it. No, they're landing, 100%. Watch.
And
watch this. I'm also even slow it down for you.
Well,
because literally I can.
Driving, so
okay,
I
but
can't-
other
I
people
can't
aren't.
look at-
But here's a good thing.
That's
Other
fine.
people aren't, so they're gonna be able to
Yeah.
see that I'm right. Hang on.
Okay.
I'm gonna slow it down, and then I'll be able to show you. It's gonna be awesome. This is awesome. Watch. You ready? Here we go.
Uh-huh.
I'll stop it right when those birds can start to slow down and stop. Up right there.
Moving.
Nope, that's where it is.
Yep,
Because
they've opened their wings up.
Yep, they get larger, and the bird in the back suddenly catches up with this dark blob in the front, and they land.
So you see that lighter
right
band
there?
in the...
See right there?
Yep,
You know how
there.
they slow down? You know they slow down and they go like they use their wing flaps to slow them down. That's what they're doing right now.
Okay, that's fine. And do you see the water in the background?
Yep.
So there's a trough then between me and the birds? There's a trough there?
I'm not there. I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
Looks
because
like refraction.
if they land on if they land on the surface of the water, then I should be able to see them on the surface of the water.
Well, you see that dark band that's underneath of the bird itself? That's refraction. Yep.
But there's water behind them, gentlemen.
Good job.
That's the refraction.
Yeah, it's still refraction.
What's still refraction?
Okay, so the dark line is your horizon. It's your technical horizon. The line behind it is the apparent horizon due to refraction.
And that's a description. So how are you able to prove this? How would you prove this?
We're giving you our opinion upon observation of your video.
So in the video, if you watch the birds, they go from having very few of those dark lines to a solid dark line as they're landing, which when it reaches that certain point, kind of shows you exactly where that refraction line is.
Okay, so what I hear you saying with that, can someone mute please? What I hear you saying with that is that when the birds reach the optical line of the water, they blend together, yes?
I didn't say that.
No, I'm talking to Sean Smith, right, Sean?
No. The refraction line is still that apparent horizon in the background. When the bird is giving that it's usually going to be an angle with a bird, and it's going to give a separate shadow that refraction. But it's almost like a shadow. It just due to the angle.
Okay, so
if you're looking at this picture right now, you can see it. You can see that line. I mean, it's pretty clear. You can see the dark lines underneath, and you can see the birds up above.
Yeah. So when you say the apparent horizon, are you talking about the line where the lighter blue meets the land in the background?
Yes.
No.
I am.
No. Yep. Yeah. The birds.
Okay, so that dark
can't see your cursor.
the dark horizontal line.
There. Yeah. That's
Okay,
apparent. The one behind it is the refracted horizon.
Refracted horizon. Refracted. What does refracted horizon mean? So I'm not actually seeing water.
Yeah. That's why you have the dark spots for the birds, and that's why they're stretched, leading towards you.
No, I'm talking about the lighter blue band above the birds.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That bird
nice
right there, and the dark spot that's leading down towards the apparent horizon.
That's the bird. Fish, you got to draw the fish there too.
Not that bird.
There's the fish in the water.
That dark line that's leading back towards you. that is part of that refraction.
Everything below that circle is part of refraction as well.
No.
That's the water. That's the water.
Yeah.
So is that.
And actually,
so is that circle. So is that circle, gentlemen. That's water.
No, that's
if
the
you,
optical.
If you
that's
go
the
back,
optical.
Yes, real observation. Observation.
I'm still trying to understand you, gentlemen. I really am. So are you suggesting that lighter blue band above the horizontal dark band is a reflection of the sky? Is that what you're suggesting? No. Yes. No.
It's a refraction of the water, and it's going to appear as the color of the sky because the sky is blue.
And that's what never mind. I'm just gonna shut up.
Oh, shit.
And actually, if you go back, Sean G, if you go back on that video to right at the beginning of the island.
Leave the arrows there, though.
Right there.
Oh, so your arrows don't work. It's CGI. That's cool.
You see how they're.
So hold on.
You see how you get how you get the refraction that is still coming towards you at over the apparent horizon.
Okay, hold on. Right above the proximate water, where you have the apparent horizon, there's another dark band above that, right? You see that dark band?
Which?
I can't see that small because it's on my phone and I'm driving.
Yeah.
I can.
No, that's the water. To the left of that smudge that you just made, there's a dark horizontal.
Yeah, that band, that is the refraction.
That's the physical water breaking through the angle of resolution above the ether band. Because
okay, so hold on 1 second,
because our
Travis.
eyes can't resolve certain things at an angle.
Hold on. So hold on, Travis. If you look at down below that last tree on the island, you see the break in the water where it goes from dark to light. Nope, down
further
lower.
down.
Yep.
There.
Right below your circle.
I can see the mirroring of the trees underneath that light band in the horizon line.
Yeah, but just below. Yep,
right there. Now,
break.
Yeah,
you see the break there? That is the one on the left is the refraction of the light continuing further than that apparent horizon. You can see the difference in the two pieces right there.
Okay, what you need to understand is if that refraction weren't visible, you would see the water the same way you see the water in proximity. The water is continuing to extend into the distance. It's just being blocked.
Well, if there wasn't that bit of land there with the trees on it, yes, it'd be the same as on the left.
Except except for one thing, right there on the left-hand side, again, in that refracted area right behind it, there's a white spot over there. You know what that is?
That's an object of some sort.
Yeah, I can't see it.
I can.
Yep.
I'm glad you circled that. I just can't see it. It's
a smudge.
It's too small.
It's definitely an object of some sort.
Yeah, but if that water was continuous past that refraction line, it wouldn't be cut off at the bottom. You would see a smooth surface leading past that white marker. There's a cutoff line on the bottom of that.
I wouldn't say that it would be smooth. I would say.
Yeah, the reason that water line is lighter than on the right hand side is because there's no fucking island.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
That's not an island. That's a cape. That's not an island. It's like.
Okay, that piece of land.
Okay, let's cut down to the meat on this. What do you think happened to those birds? Did they get beamed up onto a spaceship? Did they just spontaneously vaporize? Did they dive into the water and become fish? I mean, what do you think happened?
Right. That line of differentiation between
Put Gilligan's Island there, Sean.
Proximate to us, that becomes the apparent horizon. Okay, that becomes the apparent horizon. That refraction area that is reflecting the sky is the ether band.
No.
And that's where the birds.
No.
The birds went into. Okay, listen. He asked me a question. I'm giving you an answer. The birds went into that angle. That's fine. The birds went into that angle where the ether band began, and they got swallowed up into that mirage. Yeah.
But then how come while they were traveling along that refraction, they didn't get swallowed up until they went behind the water?
Because they were above, right? Because they were above that angle at that moment when they.
But they were flying in the refraction band.
No. The reason why you could see them was because of the particular distance they were at and the height, so that when they disappeared, they lowered No, once they go behind the refraction line, they disappear. That's why they disappear.
That's not what your images showed.
I don't understand what you want me to say.
He said refraction line. I thought he meant the ether band line.
So why not?
No,
Yeah, I get confused. But no, not that I can't accept it. It's just I don't understand it, even with my level of knowledge. No.
Yeah, I don't have a problem understanding what I'm saying to you guys. Yeah, I'm positive. Yeah, the cause is the ether band. The effect.
The cause is refraction.
No, the cause is not refraction. That's the effect.
So wait a minute. So what's causing that line? What's causing that break in the line?
Are you talking about the second dark? Are you talking about the second?
I'm talking about the light blue line and the dark blue line.
Okay, right. So you've got the massive body of water in proximity, and then you've got a light blue line, and then another dark blue line.
I'm talking about the light blue line and the dark blue line. It's like 50-50 on this picture.
Okay, Sean, I'm trying to be specific. Please listen to me.
The original apparent horizon, at the original apparent horizon, there is a light blue line on the left-hand side and a dark blue line on the right-hand side.
Above that.
No, right-hand side. The same exact apparent horizon.
Okay, so then what's your question?
What's causing the light on the left and the dark on the right?
The ether band.
The ether band would be a standard.
Cause. It's the cause.
So right. It's the cause of any and all problems that you have with taking a picture.
It's not a
well,
problem.
It would have to be a problem.
No, it's not a problem.
If you can't get a clear picture,
that you could be producing a clearer image of this picture. This is as clear as you're going to get with any camera.
You're still not describing how you're getting that blue line to go from light blue to dark blue in that exact area. You can call it whatever you want, but until you can describe it and how it's working, it's not working.
Okay, so the elements that make up the cause would be the temperature of the air, the temperature of the water, the humidity, the precipitation, whatever you want to, whatever.
What precipitation? It's not raining.
I.e.
the
refraction.
Moisture in the air, humidity or whatever.
I.e. refraction.
Oh, so atmospheric conditions. Okay, thank you.
Sean Smith, it's interesting how he dodged.
I'm not dodging anything, gentlemen. I'm right here.
He asked you a simple question. Why is it light on the left and dark on the right?
Atmospheric conditions.
And there we go. That's what I've been waiting for. Thank you. That is some intellectual honesty there, finally.
Oh my God, whatever. That's what I mean by the ether band, okay?
Then why not just call it atmospheric conditions?
Because atmospheric conditions can apply to a lot of the atmosphere above the image that we're seeing, but I'm talking about the band of the field of view that we're looking at right now. That's where the effects are happening. That's where the observation is taking place. So
that's where the atmosphere is the thickest.
That's fine. That's great. Okay. If that's for you, if you want to translate.
When you are at 6 foot, that's where the atmosphere is going to be thickest.
Right.
Right?
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So do we want to see a picture of one that is above there but still looking down into that atmospheric condition?
It depends on what you want to observe.
The same island?
Okay. I would like to know if you've got any of these, and I'm going to put it in quotes, ether band observations over land, or are they all over water?
Well, where I live, I'm near water, and that's the most accessible observations that I have. In Maryland, where I'm at, it's very hilly, very mountainous, so I'm not going to have a flat landscape.
What about a road?
It's very hilly. I don't have a flat landscape.
We've discussed this in the past, and you said it should manifest itself between two hilltops. So what you're saying then is all of your observations are done over water with a temperature differential that would be conducive to refraction. And that is what you're calling the ether band.
Yeah, that doesn't disqualify my observations simply, or I mean, Shills, simply because.
No, I don't have a problem with your observations. I have a problem with you trying to rename shit and muddy the waters. Your observations are fine.
I have a problem with your anal retentive desire to hold on to a term that you think is sufficient. And when I find the term insufficient, I've chosen a term that I have described and labeled and clearly explained.
No, you haven't. You still haven't given the actual explanation as to why there was a break on the left and to the right on that picture. You still haven't given a clear explanation as to how that happens. You just say ether band or atmospheric conditions.
That's because
we explained that that you were looking at the sky on one side and the island on the other due to refraction.
That's only
due
a description.
To refraction.
That's still
the refraction. The refraction is due to the atmospheric conditions, such as the humidity and the temperature and things like that.
Right. So now that I have already in this show admitted that those are the constituent parts that make up the ether band, when I say ether band, I'm including humidity, air temperature, water temperature.
So rather than use some broad term to describe refraction, why not just say, okay, it's refraction?
Because I think that in terms of when we talk about boats going over the curve, it's refraction that you're observing and not the curve.
Okay, that's fine. If that's your position and that's what you want to posit to us, that's great. But don't make up words like
tell me
ether
what
band.
I can do or not do.
Like ether band, and then try to jam all this shit into it and just use it as a hand wave.
Band-aid.
It's not a Band-Aid. It's not a Band-Aid, gentlemen. I've already described my desire to use this term because when I started making these observations, I was trying to, again, because I didn't necessarily familiarize myself with atmospheric conditions and whatnot, I was sitting there thinking, okay, how would I describe this? And that's the term that I came up with.
Why not use the actual terms?
Okay, why don't you just translate when I say ether band what you know I mean?
Why don't you just use the proper terms and then
I've already said this last week.
We can
I'm
skip past
keep
this.
using this term because you guys are bitching about it so much.
Then stop using it.
No, I'm not going to stop using it.
Then when we ask you something, don't use it. It's okay for you to want to use it when you're talking in your shows, on your videos. But when we're having a discussion, we don't want to fucking hear it.
All I'm asking you to do is just be intellectually honest. That's all I'm asking.
I'm not being intellectually dishonest, Chills.
By lumping all that shit into a term that you've created in your own mind? Yeah.
All that shit. No, I'm not lumping all that shit. Okay, listen to me. Let me ask you this question.
You are Travis. I'm sorry.
Okay. Let me ask you this question: Fata Morganas, inferior mirage, superior mirage, mirages that aren't any of those. Are those the effects of atmospheric conditions?
Yes.
Rick's.
Why are you lumping all of those things under atmospheric conditions?
Because that is a broad term for those.
But when we discuss the actual effect, we talk about the actual effect, not okay, it's atmospheric conditions, and then leave it at that.
Exactly.
We were talking about refraction earlier with that video. We weren't saying atmospheric conditions. We were saying refraction. You, on the other hand, say ether band and leave it at that. That's what I'm objecting to.
So when you say in that image that there's refraction happening in that lighter blue section, what does that mean? Refraction in that image.
It means the light's being bent because of densities in the air are mismatched, or they're not consistent.
Not consistent with what?
Each other. One layer of air is a little more dense than the other.
Isn't that
That's
the
what causes.
definition
That's what causes refraction.
Yeah, I was going to say, look up the word refraction, because that's the word, you'd have to know the word.
I'm just asking to understand what Shields is saying, that's all.
Are you?
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't have any duplicity in my questions.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and give. Hang on, can we pull up the pic of the island? Yeah, I'll pull it up. But I'm gonna give a 15-minute warning. The island of the image we were looking at before, Sean, or an actual picture?
Yeah. I put a link in the side chat. Actually, I think I put two, but they're both of the. One is the Chesapeake Bay, and the other is just a quick Google search on the island itself. So we could take a look at some of those. Some of them are from different distances, different heights, things like that.
1 second, I'm going to share it right now.
I mean, this whole ether band thing, every time you use it and somebody has not heard it before, you've got to explain it to them. And you got to explain it again and again and again and again. Even though they may understand and know exactly what the conditions are, they may understand refraction. But when you use terms like ether band, all it does is it muddies the waters. Plain, I want to go on record. I don't have a problem with you. You and I get along just fine. No problems. But when it comes to this ether band thing, we're going to have a problem.
Well, I would say that that's your problem, because when I have these discussions with people who have an interest in this discussion, I don't get the flack from them that I get from you guys. They're like, okay, I get it. I understand.
Are they flat earthers?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with it?
Because they are.
Because the people you're having this conversation with right now have a problem with ether band.
No, you have a problem with changing your mind about your understanding of.
You're not telling us. You're not telling us anything different from what we're explaining is correct. There is no difference. There is no different world. You're literally saying a different term for atmospheric optics. That's it.
But I'm applying it to this observation.
You're not applying.
Yeah, I am.
Saying
I'm applying it.
So, Sean G, can you zoom in on that photo?
Yeah.
Is the word ether actually a definition of anything in reality at all?
In the Greek, yes. In the Greek, the first definition of ether is air.
It's actually the breath that was exhaled by the gods.
Okay. When you look up ether in Wikipedia, the very first definition is air.
If you look it up in the Greek, it was actually a term given to the air. The gods.
Sorry, did you just say?
Hang
on.
on.
You just said it. No. You just said it.
Travis.
You just said it. Come on.
Travis. Don't conflate what I'm saying.
You just
said it was
air.
the air that came out of the gods' mouths.
I don't give a shit where it comes from. It's the
What about
air.
It's the etymology of the word is.
This is just derailing the conversation. This is more deflection.
No. Somebody asked a question. They asked a question if ether band or if ether has a definition, and I said the first definition when you look it up,
ether sphere.
Just do a Google search on ether. It means air.
No, it doesn't.
Hey Travis, do you see this picture?
Yeah, I've got it myself. Yeah, that's not from the angle that I came at though. That's south from where I'm at. Okay,
that's
so it's
south from where they're at, but the clarity in that picture is amazing.
That's because he's closer, Sean.
I understand that. But you have to see the. But look at the clarity when you were taking pictures of the birds.
Sean.
Hold on, you weren't letting me finish. When you were taking pictures of those birds, were they closer?
The atmospheric conditions were different, Sean.
Yes, they were.
That was beautiful.
Well, wasn't the ether band was it the ether band or the atmospheric condition?
The ether band? I think I'm funny.
Oh God, here
I think I'm funny.
Don't get angry.
Was it the ether band? Listen, so Sean Smith, again, first of all, this is from a different angle. Second of all, the proximity is not the same. So and not only that, but these are different conditions. Right? This is a different day.
You are exactly right. These are completely different conditions.
Okay.
The reason why I wanted to zoom in on this picture though was because of the fact that it brought up the clarity of that lighthouse and also the bird at the same time.
That's got that has nothing
listen,
to do.
That bird is closer than the island. All right? So this is the difference. This is the difference between
Bay were different.
This is the difference between a DSLR camera and the P9000.
No, it's
yes,
not.
It is.
Okay, listen.
I can guarantee you that this was taken with a DSLR camera.
And I'm telling you that if I had my P900, I would have just as much clarity.
No, P900s haven't got a reputation for clarity. They've only just got zoom.
Well, I disagree. And the only thing that we can do right now is just give each other rhetoric. Because unless Sean Smith and I went on a boat at the same distance and took a picture, him with his DSLR and me with my P900, and then compared, then we would have something to talk about. But right now, all we have, you and I, both together, and I'm admitting all I have is rhetoric.
I'll agree with that.
Or we can do it like this. I don't even know if these are the right cameras, so you guys got to let me know.
I'm only just learning off people that know about cameras.
Macro zoom. Macro again.
Yeah, they're all going to be like this. Find a different one. Trying to find one, Travis, that has a little bit more distance to it, so we can.
I mean, I if you want to give me, well, you're going to wrap up. Yeah. I'm 20 minutes. I'm 20 minutes away from being home. I can bring up my own images. I mean,
There's two images there.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
The one on the left's a P900.
Why are you switching now? Go back to that image.
That's what he's doing. He's getting to it.
Yeah, that image was that one.
So what I can do, gentlemen, is go into the past couple of days because I got both a new P900 and I also got a new 600 millimeter lens for my Nikon D300. And I took pictures, stills, on the same day within minutes of each other, going back and forth from each camera. And I can show you in a presentation both of those in contrast, if you would like.
Yeah, they're adding in After Effects into it to clear it up. That's what it's showing.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, I don't know much about the subject of the difference, so I was kind of giving them to you guys.
I'd just like to see some observations over land rather than water, because we all know that water water observations are touchy at best. You're going to get a lot of refraction. You're going to get a lot of atmospheric conditions that will blur the lines, so to speak, both figuratively and literally.
And I would make the prediction that you're going to have just as much.
What's raw image capture?
Raw image is what it's basically just taking the image as the lens sees it. That's all it is. But it's easier to manipulate. You can do more with the raw image than you can with a JPEG.
Yeah, it has more data points.
This is a image capture with a P900 over a straight bit of flat land like a road or whatever to show some effects. Want to see that? It's video footage, not photos.
Yeah. Or actually, I actually got to take off. Did you want to Terry on yours? Said you're interested.
Yeah. I'm going over onto mine, so I can always show it up on mine.
Yeah. Actually, we'll give people.
Yeah, we'll go play in Terry's.
Yeah.
Who's going to come and play over on my channel?
I will if you put the link into Discord, because I have to swap to my tablet.
Yeah, I'll do it all now for you while Sean's wrapping up.
Yeah. Did anybody want to do some final words? You start with demonic.
Either band sucks. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Sean?
Oh, well, I thought it was a great conversation. We had a little bit of lightning going on and everything. Travis, I won't be on the after show. I gotta get up early in the morning, take my kid to school and stuff. School gets in the way of a lot of stuff, but definitely, yeah. I want to go over some of the images that you have.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Terry, you're last. Travis, your turn.
Etherband rocks.
Well played. Unpaid chill.
Just why invent new shit to muddy waters when old descriptive terms are still working just fine? That's all I got.
I do agree. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and end this. I'm going to end the hangout. I do appreciate you guys. Travis, I do appreciate you sharing your stuff on here and actually having the conversation.
Not at all. My pleasure.
Yep. I will talk to you guys soon. Unlike
Aaron.
Yeah, we'll start calling him the name we do not discuss. He's burnt the last bridge I had left, so hopefully he doesn't think I'm kidding, because I usually take my bands pretty serious. And I think everybody needs to, because goddamn, he really knows how to just destroy a conversation, which is why I'm here. Okay, so.
Well, I'm gonna head over to Terry's and hope the audience follows, comes along, subscribes to both.
Yep.
Be sure to hit that like up there above for for Sean's video because we need to get some numbers up. He does a good thing.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, Bell.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end this.
Yeah.
You guys have a good one. All right, guys. Yeah, like I said, I got some stuff I got to take care of for tomorrow. But I do appreciate everyone being here. You guys have no idea. Hey Trish, what's up? It's not an official. He's not my official cousin, but yeah, me and Lodi maybe related. But yeah, I had fun with this on this one. Got to show and explain a lot of the optics that we do see. So definitely know that we didn't do this for nothing. Whether it be Travis's ether band or what it really is atmospheric conditions, the main issue that we should all look at is the fact that we need detail on how things or why we see things the way we do, rather than just giving it a blanket term because you don't want to adhere with what science is telling us. I like this topic. I think I'm going to try. We may do something tomorrow on this. I'm going to try to get some more guys. I know Sean has experience with this topic. I know there's quite a few people that have this experience with this topic. I'm going to try to get them on because, again, this is a topic I don't know anything about. So I do want to understand it and hear it. So with that said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Yes, Marty, he is banned. You guys can always rewind and listen to it. But with that said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I want to say for sure, but for sure tomorrow, you guys can get to see the new intro. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you. Love you guys. Peace.
You don't gotta go home, but you can't stay here. And no, I don't wanna be alone.